This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Here comes Strike the Gold in front by 3 lengths. Price for second and no play third. It was Strike the Gold winning it, taking this year's running of the Bluegrass Stakes by 2.5 lengths.
Into the final furlong, and Fusaichi Pegasus runs by the front runners, and he's pulling away, and he is pulling away impressively. Red Bullet left behind, Country only third, Aptitude fourth. Fusaichi Pegasus will roll into Kentucky as the favorite in the Derby.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Justify leading past the 8th pole. He's a couple of lengths in front. Boltoro is closing on the inside. It's Justified by 3/4 of a length. Boltoro trying ever so hard, but Justify, another exhilarating exhibition by the supremely gifted athlete. He's on a dizzying ascent to greatness, winning the Santa Anita Derby.
And it's the filly winning colours. Gary Stevens going to the whip left-handed. Just one crack though. It's winning colours. Turning in an absolutely outstanding performance. We're looking at one exceptional filly who'll be carrying the hopes of California all the way to the Kentucky Derby.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone, and welcome to the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum, and it is all presented by TwinSpires right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, happy to have you with me on a huge weekend of thoroughbred racing, and I welcome all of you tuned in right up until 11 a.m. Eastern with me this morning, coast to coast and worldwide on Sirius 216, XM 204, affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you are accessing your podcasts. Well, since Aristides won the first Kentucky Derby in 1875, there have been 148 renewals of the Run for the Roses. Number 149, by the way, is going to take place in 28 days. And if you want the exact count, 28 days, 10 hours, 42 minutes, and 40 seconds away from that Run for the Roses on Saturday, May 6th at Churchill Downs. Of those previous 148, an astonishing 62 winners have come from the 3 prep races we're going to see later today. Keeneland's Bluegrass Stakes has produced 23 Derby winners, second only to the Florida Derby. 20 have come from the Wood Memorial, and 19 from the Santa Anita Derby. 62 of 148. That's 42% of all Kentucky Derby winners in history in just 3 prep races. Let that sink in for a minute. 42%. So it seems unimaginable to be sitting here this morning talking about any kind of drought or significant gaps when it comes to these 3 prep races. But that's exactly the case. You have to go back 20 years, 2 decades, to find the last horse to win the Kentucky Derby after running in the Wood Memorial. That was Funnyside in 2003. You have to go back even further to find the last horse to win both races, Fusaichi Pegasus in 2000. The Bluegrass, believe it or not, has experienced a similar dry spell. Its last winner of the Kentucky Derby being Street Sense in 2007, Strike the Gold, the last horse to win both, all the way back in 1991. You're going to hear from the man who trained Strike the Gold coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern. Nick Zito, the Hall of Famer, will be with me to talk about his 3 Bluegrass wins and his 3 wins in the Wood Memorial. And I'm going to ask Nick, why is it that these 2 incredibly prolific Derby preps have experienced such a drought when it comes to producing the Kentucky Derby winner? I can't wait to hear Nick's thoughts on that. Who better to ask than Hall of Famer Nick Zito, a 3-time winner of both races. So stay tuned for that conversation coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern. The Santa Anita Derby hasn't had to endure that same lack of production in recent history. As a matter of fact, it's quite the opposite. The Santa Anita Derby has given us the Kentucky Derby winner in 2005, in 2012, 2014, 2018, and 2020. And interestingly enough, since the race's inception in 1935, the Santa Anita Derby has never had a gap without a Kentucky Derby winner as large as the ones that we're currently seeing right now with the Bluegrass and the Wood Memorial. And that is mind-boggling. I think historically anyway, we think about the Bluegrass and the Wood as those iconic prep races that are going to give us the horses that are going to be contentious and win the Kentucky Derby. They are, much like we say about the University of Kentucky in North Carolina and UCLA, they are, in college basketball, those prep races are the blue bloods of the Kentucky Derby picture every single year. The longest the Santa Anita Derby, which, by the way, I think sometimes gets overlooked because it's all the way on the West Coast, and we don't often view that race historically the way we view the Wood and the way we view the Bluegrass. But the longest the Santa Anita Derby has gone without producing a winner of the Kentucky Derby is the 14 years from Galadian in 1940 to Determined in 1954. That's a long way back. The Wood is currently at 20 years, and the Bluegrass is at 16. The longest the Santa Anita Derby has ever gone in the history of the race without producing a Derby winner is 14. So by far, among the three, the Santa Anita Derby has been the most consistent over the course of the past 20 years, certainly. So if you're handicapping this year's Kentucky Derby with history as your guide, think about this. Since Funnyside, the gutsy gelding, as Tom Durkin referred to him, crossed the finish line in front in the 2003 Run for the Roses, the Florida Derby has produced 5 Kentucky Derby winners and now is the leader in the clubhouse to give us a 6th. The Santa Anita Derby has had 5. The Arkansas Derby can claim 4 Kentucky Derby winners, and the Louisiana Derby has had 2 in the past 4 years. That's 16 of the past 20 Kentucky Derby winners just from those 4 prep races. 1 for the Bluegrass and 0 for the Wood Memorial over the past 20 years really does seem almost impossible. I don't think it's impossible for one of those streaks to come to an end in 28 days. To me, the more likely race to give us the winner of the Kentucky Derby is the Bluegrass. If you're going to compare the Bluegrass and the Wood, and you're going to look at the horses competing in those 2 races later today, because I think Tappet Trice, who is the 5-2 morning line favorite in today's Bluegrass at Keeneland, I think Tappet Trice is legit. I know he comes from far back, and he's going to have to weave through traffic and all those things that usually aren't the formula for winning the Kentucky Derby. And I'm not saying he's going to win the Kentucky Derby, but I'm saying if it's going to happen from one of these 2 races this year, which I don't think is the wildest stab in the world, I certainly think Tappet Trice has to be on your tickets. First of all, he's been highly regarded ever since he was a baby. He was a $1.3 million yearling. By Tappet out of a Dunkirk mare. Distance won't be an issue. And he certainly, after he won the Tampa Bay Derby, and even before, when Todd Pletcher joined me, before that win, he talked about Tappet Trice wanting to run all day long and having the look of a Belmont Stakes type of horse. He's believed that the further they go, the better this horse is going to be. And arguably, the best race of his career came last time out in the Tampa Bay Derby, although his allowance win at Gulfstream before that was pretty good too. He's really blossomed as a 3-year-old. And today, I don't think the inside post position really hurts him all that much because he's going to drop out a little bit. He's going to sit back. So it's not like he has to break well and get a good position, and he's not a speed horse where if he doesn't break well, he's going to get caught in behind. Getting caught in behind horses for Tapit Trice is no big deal. He's going to sit back, he's going to make that late run, and Luis Saez, as good as they get in this sport, will be at the controls. He should be able to work out a good trip, even from the inside post with Tapit Trice. So I think if you're looking at the two races and saying which one is going to end those lengthy droughts this year in the Kentucky Derby, potentially because of Tapit Trice, I think the Bluegrass gets the edge. Hit Show, the 5-2 morning line favorite in the Wood Memorial, he's pretty good. He's won 3 of 4 starts. Now today, no bargain. He draws post number 13, the far outside post in that field. So he's got to prove that he can overcome that outside draw. But if he does, doesn't that kind of elevate his status in your mind? I think it does. He will then be 4 for 5 coming into the Kentucky Derby. He'll enter on a 3-race win streak. And he'll pair up back-to-back graded stakes wins if he wins the Wood today, because he won the Withers last time, grade 3. Now he would win the grade 2 Withers, or the grade 2 Wood. And he'd pair up back-to-back. I think Hit Show is pretty good. Now, I question whether he's fast enough. He certainly has the pedigree to go 1.25 miles, being by Candy Ride out of a Tapit mare. I don't worry about that. But I do question whether he's fast enough with some of these other horses. But let's face it. If you take out the top 2 in this year's Derby picture, Forte and Angel of Empire, who, by the way, great races from both of those horses last week. Hard to differentiate which one was more impressive. They were both impressive for different reasons. But those are the 2 horses right now that are going to get most of the attention. If you take out those 2, it is wide open behind them. So Dale Roman said on this show last week when he talked about running Cyclone Mischief against Forte again in the Florida Derby last weekend, which, by the way, Cyclone Mischief, a very gutsy third in that race. That'll put him on track to go to the Kentucky Derby. But Dale said on the show, you never duck one horse. Now, assuming that all things stay on track for Forte and Angel of Empire, those are 2 pretty good horses in the Kentucky Derby. But I would go so far as to say you never duck 2 horses. Because anything can happen. Anything can happen in a 20-horse Kentucky Derby field. It's 1.25 miles. That changes the game completely. So, yeah, I don't think it's the worst stab in the world to say that one of those 2 streaks, either in the Bluegrass or the Wood Memorial, can come to an end in 28 days. Certainly can. But I think the more likely is Tapit Trice coming out of the Bluegrass and winning the Kentucky Derby. Poll questions today with those 3 Derby prep races. Who's your pick to win the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct? Hit Show, Dreamlike, Slip Mahoney, or other. If you choose other, comment, let me know. Who's your pick to win the Toyota Bluegrass at Keeneland? Tapit Trice, Verifying, Raise Kane. Those are the 3 horses expected to take most of the play. Or other. Again, comment if you choose other. Let me know who you think pulls off a bit of an upset. And who's your pick to win the Santa Anita Derby? Practical Move, the favorite. Go Rocket Ride. That's my pick, by the way, getting my vote. National Treasure or other. You can go to @HRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to let me know your thoughts. If you don't do social media, no big deal. Simply email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and I will pass along those results later in the program. But make sure you weigh in on who you feel is going to win those 3 major Derby prep races as we are 28 days away from the Run for the Roses. All right, here's the guest lineup for you here this morning. Coming up after this first commercial break, I'm going to welcome the Big A, Anthony Stabile, longtime member of the HRRN family. He is doing a fantastic job as a NYRA television analyst. He's going to be with me at 8:15 to talk about the big races at NYRA today, including the Wood Memorial. Gabby Gaudet will be with me from Keeneland at 8:35. She'll talk about the Bluegrass Day card. Hall of Famer Nick Zito at 9 o'clock. 9:20, going to bring you an interview with Gary Player, the Hall of Fame golfer. This is Masters weekend. It was 9 years ago that I had the privilege of sitting down with Gary Player in the press box at Keeneland spending a half hour with the Hall of Famer and talking about his love of racing. He is one of the top breeders in South Africa. He has a great passion for thoroughbred racing, and I thought on Masters weekend, why not relive some of that? So I've edited that interview down for you. You're going to hear about 13 minutes of my conversation with Gary Player, and it's fascinating. I think you're really going to love it. That comes up at 9:20. 9:40, Jockey Ramon Vazquez is going to be with me from California. He'll be live from Santa Anita as he gets ready to ride the favorite in the Santa Anita Derby Practical Move. James Scully going to be with me at 10 o'clock Eastern with the TwinSpires Triple Play. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, I ask, they answer with trainer Dale Roman's turf rider Tim Wilkin. All kinds of things to get to. It's a busy morning, and it's all right here on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Airdrie Stud is proud to announce the arrival of Grade 1 winning millionaire Happy Saver for the 2023 season. Happy Saver boasts one of the most important female families of the century, as his third dam is Broodmare of the Year Weekend Surprise, dam of the legendary AP Indy. Undefeated in his first 5 starts, Happy Saver capped off his perfect 4-for-4 season with an emphatic victory in the historic Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
And Happy Saver stays undefeated. He steps up and he wins the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Airdrie Studs, Happy Saver. Think about it.
It's that time of year again. The Keeneland Spring Meet is back. Make sure to pre-purchase tickets to join your friends and family for world-class racing at Keeneland. Gates open at 11. First post at 1 o'clock. Visit Keeneland.com for a full schedule of races and events. And be sure to download the Keeneland Race Day app before you go. See you there.
Racing at Gulfstream. There's plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the Royal Palm Meet, with live racing Thursday through Sunday and simulcast every day. It's spring season in South Florida and time to witness exceptional racing. Watch the action from Carousel Club or feast in 10 Palms with an elevated view of the track. For stake schedules, reservations, and tickets, visit GulfstreamPark.com. That's GulfstreamPark.com.
Adina Stallions set the gold standard, all number 1 in their category. Point of entry, the number 1 stallion by black type and greatest stakes winners standing in Canada.
Oh, the classy point of entry would not be denied.
Shaman Ghost, the number 1 second crop sire standing in Canada.
It's Shaman Ghost, an overwhelming force in the last 16th of a mile.
Signature Red, the number 1 stallion by percentage of black type winners standing in Canada.
Signature Red won his second Highlander in a row.
And Silent Name, the number 1 stallion by percentage of black type performers standing in Canada. A list that includes Grade 1 winner Silent Poet.
Silent Poet in front. Admiralty Pier out the ground, but Silent Poet has won the Highlander Stakes.
And don't forget Adina's new sire, American Guru. His first crop are now yearlings of 2023. American Guru, the son of Unbridled Song, whose family have already set their gold standards around the world.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're coming down to the final furlong, and the gutsy gelding Funny Side has a narrow lead. Bobby Frankel's Derby duel, Peace rolls to his inside. Empire Maker is giving it all. Funny Side trying to pull up the upset here. 12-1 coming down to the line, and the gutsy gelding Funny Side has won the 129th Kentucky Derby with jockey Jose Santos aboard, and it was dead tight for second between Frankel's horses. Peace rolls and Empire Maker. That's what I'm talking about. Put in a belated run to be third.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on this Saturday morning. Bluegrass Stakes Day, Wood Memorial Day, Santa Anita Derby Day. 28 days until the Run for the Roses. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you right up until 11 a.m. Eastern. That was the legendary Tom Durkin with the call of the 2003 Kentucky Derby, won by Funny Side. No, he did not win his prep race prior to that in the Wood Memorial. He was second, but He turned the tables on everybody on the first Saturday in May, and it's hard to believe, as I told you in the first segment of the program, that it has been 20 years since we have seen a Kentucky Derby winner come from the Wood Memorial. It seems almost impossible, and the man who should have the answer to that question is the Big A, Anthony Stabile. He does a fantastic job with NYRA as their television analyst, and he is with me again here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Big A, good morning. Happy Wood Memorial Day.
Baron, we were talking yesterday about the rejoin. I was thinking maybe a little Roman Reigns music, as I am the new tribal chief, my new nickname. That was beautiful. My last Derby winner, unfortunately, but that was beautiful 20 years ago. Preakness winner and Belmont winner last year. Early voting, Mo Donegal. But a Derby winner has been hard to come by here in the Big Apple as of late, and hopefully, I don't know, maybe things can change today. It's an interesting renewal of the Wood Memorial, for the simple fact that we have a maiden who's likely going to be the second or third choice from the man who trained the Belmont winner last year, Todd Fletcher, in Dreamlike. So it's not the most star-studded renewal, but we got a field of 12, and I think you have an interesting runner in here in the Hit Show. The problem is that draw. That draw is a huge, huge disadvantage for the horse that's probably the best horse in the race.
Yeah, I would agree. I said that in my opening comments. I think Hit Show is legit. I think he's a good horse. Now, whether he's fast enough to go on and win the Kentucky Derby in 4 weeks, who knows? But if he's able to overcome that outside draw and win the Wood Memorial, and let's say he does it impressively, that has to bump him up a couple of notches on your list, doesn't it?
I don't know what the folks out there in HRRN Nation are using, what speed figure you use. I use the buyers. 60 to 71 to 82 to 91. That's at least a 9-point jump in between his races. If he continues that trend, it puts him right there. And if he continues that trend today, he's going to overcome as disadvantageous a post as you're going to find. I'm not telling you it's Gulfstream, and what Forte did last week, what Forte did last week. At this point, I would imagine it's going to take a Herculean effort to knock him off the Derby favoritism role. But if this horse does this today, we're a 1.125 mile track here at the Big A. So it's essentially 3/8 of a mile, 3/8 of a mile on the straightaways, 3/16 of a mile on the turns, just about. You have 1/8 of a mile from the finish line to the first turn.
Yep.
A little bit of a run up, a little over 1/8 of a mile. Manny Franco has two options today. He can leave running out of there with Hit Show and get caught at the very best 4 wide into the first turn. Or he can drop back and lose a ton of position. This isn't the Withers, where, it's a short field. There were 7 horses in the Withers, which isn't, that short of a field, but short enough. It's not the Withers where he's only going to lose 2 or 3. He's going to be 4 or 5 wide into that first turn if he tries to be aggressive. So, and maybe he's just better than these horses, but he's got to clear some of the quote-unquote filler if he tries to do that, or he's going to be 8-9 lengths off the lead. It's not optimal what he's got to do today, but he might just be better than these horses.
Yeah, you mentioned the maiden Dreamlike, and he is 7-2 on the morning line, 0-2 lifetime, but both of his races have been good. He's finished second both times. They add blinkers today. These are the same connections that bring us Forte. The one hole, you just talked about the strategy from the outside post going 1.125 miles. The one hole, if he doesn't break well, is he in trouble?
Yeah. He needs that. That's the problem with these big fields. Everybody loves big fields. I like them too. But I like them when they're full of horses that are contentious. I don't need, you go, if really, really quickly, the 3, I don't really like Shadow Dragon. I feel like that's blasphemy when it's a horse is trained by Bill Mott. I don't like Shadow, so sorry, Bill. I feel like I'm supposed to be apologized. It feels like I should kneel and be abolished for my sins. Sorry, Bill.
How times have changed.
Yeah, exactly. I've matured since I left the airwaves, Mike. I don't like Shadow Dragon. Knox looks hopeless. General Banker will be out the back. He always tries hard, but he'll be coming from last. Artie Garrigan probably doesn't want to go this far, but he'll be forward. Lord Miles doesn't really have a chance. Croupie's Croupie. Uncle Jake's tough to make, Classic Catch, Uncle Master. There's a lot of filler in here. But if this horse doesn't break, he's a legitimate contender. He can win the race. But if he doesn't break, he's going to find himself behind a wall of horses going into that first turn. And now Jose Ortiz is going to have to find his way through some traffic. If he breaks with the blinkers, a son of Gunrunner, it looks like he figured some stuff out from his first start to his second start. He got around the 2 turns last time. He's going incrementally a 16th of a mile each time forward. I mean, he's got to be considered a major player in here. I don't get maiden or not.
What do you make of Slip Mahoney?
That's what I'm picking him here. I like the second and third races. I'm a big Tapit Trice fan, who's obviously going to be the favorite down in the Bluegrass today at Keeneland. I'm a Tapit Trice fan, so I liked his race against Tapit Trice. I'm not even so sure this horse likes a muddy track. I think he just ran that well that day because he's that talented. He's kind of figuring things out, too. The maiden win. He got himself involved in 2 stretch battles, and I think that's going to help a horse like him who's still trying to figure things out. He didn't beat Tapit Trice. He beat Krupe, and then he came back into Gotham. That was one of the strangest races I've ever watched, Mike. The pace kind of collapsed. Iron Clover, who was a big part of that pace, came back to win. So I think that's good. That's helpful for the race. And for a horse who was on top of 2 paces in his 2 prior starts, to be next to last. And I know they were kind of coming back to him, but he still passed a lot of horses in the stretch. And while Razor Cane was long gone, he passed a lot of horses. And I think he ran well enough where he's reunited with Dylan Davis now. If he breaks and it's not run like the Gotham and he's right on top of a pace, I think he's going to be a major player in here. Again, a lot of these horses want to come out the back. I think if he's forward, sitting 3-4 lengths off the lead, 2-3 lengths off the lead under Dylan, I think he's a major player. I'm not wildly against Hit Show. It's just very hard for me to take a horse that's going to be 9-5, 2-1 from that draw. I've been here too long. I've seen too many of these horses with that draw. It's just it's a tough road to hoe, and I can't take a horse at 9-5. When I think there are a couple other horses in here like Dreamlike and Slip Mahoney who have legitimate chances to beat him.
Yeah, Hit Show's going to have to be much the best if he wants to win the Wood from that outside draw later today. We'll see if he can pull it off. Post time 6:16 Eastern, 3:16 out on the West Coast, and it's going to be shown.
Aaron.
What's that?
Yeah, we're on Big Fox today.
Yeah.
So 6 to 6:30. Greg Wolf's going to anchor the coverage. The whole cast of characters will be there 6 to 6:30 on the Big Fox. Just check your local listings. We're looking forward to that. First of a bunch of races we'll cover here at NYRA on the Big Fox Network this spring and summer.
Yeah, and there are 4 graded stakes on that card today leading up to the Wood, which is the final of the 11 races on the Aqueduct program. We won't have time to go through all 4 here, Big A, but I do want to get your thoughts on the Grade 1 Carter, which is race number 8 with a post time of 4:19 Eastern. A big defection from that one. White Abario, who was the 2-1 morning line second choice in that race for Saffie Joseph Jr. coming out after spiking a fever. He will not go in that race. That changes things a little bit in the way that people are going to view the Carter.
Yeah, it takes out a lot of money on the second choice, and now Repo Rocks figures to be a big favorite.
Yep.
He's become a different horse since moving to Jamie Ness. He's won 4 in a row. Big, gaudy 111 buyer figure over this track, going this distance in the toboggan, 2 starts back. Last time out, he had the proverbial X on his back. It didn't matter. He still jogged home in the stymie by over 3 lengths going the mile. He cuts back now. He's a very likely winner. I'm going to take one stab against him. Today's flavor, George Weaver and his assistant Blair Golan, who has the New York string year-round, has done a tremendous job with this horse. He is loose as a goose from the inside. Manny Franco knows how to ride this horse. Just get some separation. I'm going to take one shot against Repo Rocks to get today's flavor at Gates of Wire in the Carter. But by no means do I think Repo Rocks isn't the horse to beat. I'll make a win bet on today's flavor and make a box with Repo Rocks. It's a 2-horse race to me.
All right. The Carter again, 4:19 Eastern, race number 8 on that program. About 1 minute left, Big A, before I have to get to our Legends of the Turf segment. But throw it out there for me. Any other horses on that card today that you're going to have your eye on? You say, hey, this horse going to be tough to beat and maybe a good price.
That's really it, to be honest with you. I like a horse in the Gazelle as we wrap our road to the Oaks as well. The 1 Capella for Brad Cox. I think Brad's going to have a good day. Capella was first time dirt in the busher last time, kind of wrangled off the lead. Kendrick Carmouche going to climb aboard for the first time. She is the controlling speed from the rail. I think Kendrick's just going to let her run from the rip. She went gate to wire in her 2 starts on the all-weather at Turfway, going the 2-turn mile. I think Kendrick lets her run from the rip. Second time dirt for the daughter of Quality Road. I like Capella and the Gazelle.
NYRA analyst Anthony Stabile, the Big A here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Big A, as always, you knocked it out of the park. Appreciate the insight. Enjoy the races today. Good luck at the windows, man.
Maybe the Beast will come on for the Belmont. You won't talk to me. You can talk to the Beast though if you want. I'll check his schedule.
A little early for the Beast to come out. He's still in hibernation, isn't he?
I got a number for him though. I can check.
All right, enjoy the day, brother.
You got it, man.
All right, Anthony Stabile here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. All right, it is time for your Legends of the Turf. When I come back, we'll turn our attention back to the Bluegrass and the Bluegrass Stakes program at Keeneland as I welcome Keeneland handicapper Gabby Gaudet. That's next after your Legends of the Turf and this short commercial break.
There have been performances by horses on the racetrack that bear more than considerable note, and there have been horses of the same milk over a period of time. This is a story of a combination of both, a horse and a performance that are 5-star in every category. Quote, "It won't be the same on Saturdays without Kelso, will it?" said the fat man. That perfunctory statement sums up the whole story. The story of Kelso in the Jockey Club Gold Cup run on the Saturday of Halloween in October of 1964. It was a golden autumn day for a golden thoroughbred. 51,000 fans on hand at Belmont Park, Long Island's grand dame of racing. They had come to pay homage to 1 in a million as a horse. People had waited 40 years for Kelso. There had been nothing like him since Exterminator in the 1920s and Man o' War of the same vintage. Oh, there were great horses in the interim: Gallon Fox, Citation, Equipoise, Discovery, Native Dancer, Cavalcade, Count Fleet, 20 Grand, Armed, Swaps, and Tom Fool, to recount just a few. There were some that occupied a very special place in the hearts of racing fans. The beloved Seabiscuit, War Admiral, Whirlaway, Alsab, Stymie, and Carryback, just to name a few. None had that rare and indefinable quality of absolute excellence of Exterminator, Man o' War, and now Kelso. His greatest single contribution to racing was in being a hero, a role model to be loved and admired. Not because of physical beauty, since he was actually underweight, and he was awkward and often seemed ill at ease. He was sort of like a homely girl who had donned her very best party dress but was doomed as a wallflower. He had a lackluster coat, and no matter what they tried to do to dress him up, as it were, he was still just plain old Kelso. You had to shake your head at Kelly because you could never imagine him to be a champion among champions. The Jockey Club Gold Cup was virtually a permanent trophy of his, and he'd won it 4 years in a row. Unheard of. But here he was trying to make it 5 in a row at the age of 7 over the grueling 2-mile distance. This was to be the last race run in New York for him. After some 1 3/4 miles of the Great Classic, he was second, right behind the dead game Little Roman Brother, who had given it all he'd had. Then Milo Valenzuela made his move aboard Kelso, and he charged at the leader. There was no need for the crowd to vent an encouraging "Come on, Kelly," as they'd done when he waged his stretch battles with Iron Peg in the Suburban and Gunbow in the Woodward. It was all over at the quarter pole, and everybody there knew it. And then an awesome thing happened. The 51,000 on hand went eerily silent for a moment, and then, just as woe on cue, 102,000 hands began to clap in unison, hands beating rhythmically in time with Kelso's stride. Cadence clapping a la European style for admiration of something special. It was like a Mahler concerto of human emotion. Kelso crossed the wire a winner in his 5th consecutive Jockey Club Gold Cup in a time of 3:19-1, a new track and American record for 2 miles. There was a wistful sadness inherent in the lengthening shadows of that fall afternoon. Summer was taking its last breath. Winter's frostiness lay just around the corner. The world would grow older, and so would Kelso. Like the fat man said, it won't seem like Saturday without Kelso. No, and there probably will never be another Saturday like that one, October 27, 1964, when Kelly won his 5th straight Jockey Club Gold Cup in what may very well have been the single greatest moment in all of thoroughbred racing's marvelous history.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed for Sales, Kentucky.
Racing fans, Run Happy Santa Anita Derby Day is here. That's right, the Grade 1 $750,000 Run Happy Santa Anita Derby on Saturday will highlight a spectacular 12-race card that'll also include 5 other stakes. Come early Saturday. First post time is at 12 noon. Admission gates open at 10 a.m. Don't miss out on the race that has produced 20 winners of the Kentucky Derby. Make your dining and seating reservations right now at santaanita.com or by phone at 626-574-RACE. Fans with a mandatory payout in place, Saturday's 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 jackpot pool should hit the $3 million mark. Bring the family this weekend for Santa Anita's annual Infield Spring Carnival, which features pony rides, a Ferris wheel, inflatable jumpers, and much more. Again, join us early Derby Day with first post time at 12 noon and take a shot at a $3 million pool in the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Santa Anita, it's the great race place.
Perennial leading consigner Eddie Woods is off to another fast start in 2023.
New Grange takes the San Pasqual, but Hopkins is too strong, finishing up powerfully to win the Palos Verdes, and it's Newgate to score by about a head. Reincarnate to take the Sham. It's Rocket Can to win the Holy Bull.
Additional 2023 stakes winners include Occult, Lane Way, and Sharar, who took the Jumeirah Derby in Dubai. Find your next winner at the Eddie Woods consignment at OBS March. Visit eddywoods.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They come to the quarter pole. Ocho, trying to take it all the way up front for Santiago Gonzalez. Chased all the way by Carpe Diem. Classy Class is third. Danzig Moon, and with a shot at fourth on the outside. Carpe Diem takes the lead. John Velasquez, a quick peek over his right shoulder. Danzig Moon coming. Ocho fought hard, but he's third. Final furlong of the Toyota Bluegrass. It will be Carpe Diem rolling through Lexington and headed on for Churchill Downs. He wins it. Danzig Moon with a big effort was second. Ocho was third.
Welcome back. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you up until 11 a.m. Eastern here on the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. That was Kurt Becker with the call of the 2015 running of the Bluegrass Stakes. It was won, as you just heard, by Carpe Diem, who certainly seized that day under John Velasquez. Todd Pletcher, the trainer. Todd Pletcher comes into this year's Bluegrass Stakes tied for most wins in the race with legendary names: Ben Jones, Woody Stevens, Leroy Jolly, and Hall of Famer Nick Zito, who comes up at 9 o'clock Eastern with me here to look back on his 3 wins. But Todd has won the race. That was his most recent. He won it in 05, in 08, and then in 2015 with Carpe Diem. If he wins today, which he's going to be favored to do, if he wins today, Todd Pletcher will stand alone atop that list. And that's an impressive list. And I now welcome Gabby Gaudet, who is fantastic. She does a great job on FanDuel TV. She does a great job working with Keeneland and making all their selections. And she's with me now here on this Bluegrass Stakes Day. Gabby, good morning. Appreciate the visit.
Good morning, Mike. I'm happy to join you this morning. There's a lot going on, but we're off and running. Yesterday was an amazing opening day, and I'm looking forward to Bluegrass Day.
Yeah, I want to start with Todd Pletcher for a minute. Then I do want to ask you about what we saw yesterday. But Todd Pletcher surpassing those names. I mean, think about those names. And he could be the best of all time. He's certainly the best of all time in a lot of races, but those are some pretty big names.
They are big names, but honestly, he's a big name.
Yeah.
He is Todd Pletcher, and every single year, he finds himself with an arsenal of horses making their way either to the Oaks or to the Kentucky Derby, and he looks like he is sitting, on a good hand this year with the headlined by Forte, Tappet Trice, of course. We'll see what he can do in Kings Barnes, who won the Louisiana Derby. I mean, he seems like he's got a really strong crew this year.
Yeah, it's not just Forte and Tappet Trice going as the likely favorite in today's Grade 1 Toyota Bluegrass. That, by the way, 5:15 Eastern is the post. It's race 9 on the 11 race card. There are 5 greatest stakes, but let's go ahead and start with the Bluegrass. No, you know what? Before we do that, Gabby, I do want to ask you about what we saw yesterday. Talk to me about what we saw in the Ashland. An upset, the favorites not getting it done yesterday. Tell me about that race.
I just laugh because Kenny McPeak, I mean, how many times has he done this before in the past? You can never leave him off your tickets. You can never not consider his horses because he's likely to spring these massive upsets, especially this time of year. One thing I know about Kenny is that he always finds himself with a nice filly each and every year, and he also gears up for the Keeneland spring meet. And he proved that he could pull off that massive upset yesterday. Now, I will say a couple of things. Wonder Wheel, she was just disappointing. And I think that was the concern going into the race, was that how strong was the Breeders' Cup Juvenile fillies? When you look at most of the horses that have started since then, they have not improved in their 3-year-old season. But with Julia Shining, I will mention one thing before the race. She seemed really keyed up, and I had not remembered that from last year when she raced. I think it was the addition of blinkers. And then Punch Bowl, I just thought she got a strange trip. I honestly thought that she would go to the lead. She'd probably be pressed by my husband's horse and Effortlessly Elegant. And that didn't happen. They took her off of the pace. So, I still think Punch Bowl is a really nice horse. Brad said before the race the only concern he had was running her so many times, including the Oaks, if they would go to the Oaks. So I don't know. I don't even think she has enough points. She's probably going to be on the bubble to get into the Oaks. But
yeah, she does.
Yeah,
not.
I mean,
well, she's 16 right now. She's got 40 points, so she's at 16. She probably does get in if she wants to go.
Okay. Yeah. So I think she's a really nice filly with a weird trip last time out, and it's just or yesterday, I should say, and it's just kind of unfortunate.
So since we're talking about the Oaks picture, who's your pick to win the Kentucky Oaks?
Southlawn? Duh.
Yeah.
I don't think that outside of wet paint, and we'll see what happens today with the Oaks preps across the country, I think it's a pretty evenly matched field. I was very impressed by Wet Paint, and she deserves to be the current favorite right now for the Oaks. But, I don't think that other than her, there's not really another standout in the 3-year-old filly crop. So why not? Why can't Southlawn take another step forward and, be a factor in the Oaks? It's really exciting.
Yeah, Southlawn, for people that don't know, trained by Norm Cassie. Norm, the husband of Gabby Gaudet. Norm joined me on my Trainer Talk show for a full 30 minutes a couple weeks back. And folks can go back to our website, horseracingradio.net, and they can listen to that full conversation. But he was great in walking through that Southlawn story and looking back on that big win from a couple of weeks ago. Just fantastic. And then he looked ahead to the Kentucky Oaks, and he's always so candid, That's what I love about interviewing Norm. He's always so candid. He's not going to hold back. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks, and that's what he did during that show.
He's funny, too. He just puts things out in the universe, and before the Fairgrounds Oaks, he's like, oh, we're going to win the Oaks. I'm like, are you, what? Like, one day he just walks in after training, I think probably the day after she worked, and she's just like, we're going to win the Oaks. I'm like, okay, cool. So he's been really high on her. Just the way that she trains in the morning, the way she works, she just continues to get better. So it's really exciting, and she's transitioned well back here to, Kentucky and everything. It would be really amazing to do it for Robert Masterson as well, who's been a supporter from the get-go. And obviously the story with Tepin, and, he has been really, he's been one of the strongest supporters for Norm from the get-go. So that would be a really nice storyline as well.
Yeah, very much so. And he talked about that in that conversation that I had with him. And one other thing we talked about was having South Lawn and Wonder Wheel hook up in the stretch and potentially come down to the line with the Kentucky Oaks on the line beneath the TwinSpires. Do we know if Wonder Wheel will still go forward to the Kentucky Oaks? Have you heard anything?
I'm not sure. I have not talked to Mark since yesterday, so TBD on that.
Yep. All right. Well, we're going to find out. We'll see if the champ makes it to Louisville if after that disappointing effort yesterday in the Ashland. Let's turn our attention to today. The Grade 1 Toyota Bluegrass is the featured event. Race 9, 5:15 Eastern. I mentioned Tappet Trice and Todd Pletcher. They'll break from post 1. They're 5-2 on the morning line. Talk to me about this race, Gabby.
I think we should start with Tappet Trice, and I made a joke the other day. I think Luis Saez is probably the strongest rider in North America just because of the horses that he rides. For example, Tappet Trice has to be ridden throughout. Instant Coffee for Brad needs to be ridden throughout. I mean, he's just on these horses that need to be ridden from the half-mile pole onward. And unfortunately, with the rail post position with Tappet Trice and the fact that he doesn't really get out of the gate and the fact that he finds himself in these, precarious positions so far off of the pace, it could pose as a problem because like the Oaks yesterday, I don't see there being a crazy amount of pace. I mean, Major Blue is in there, and I think Verifying will be forwardly placed. So that is, I think, one thing that he'll have to overcome. And it's also something that if he does make it into the gate for the Kentucky Derby, that he will have to improve upon. So I do like Tappet Trice, but of the two favorites, I think I have a little bit more confidence in Verifying. And if you go back to the Rebel last time out, it was kind of a funny jockey dynamic because Irad was on Giant Mischief. Flo was on Verifying. Irad did not let Flo out. He was just boxed in throughout. And when he needed to make that move at a pivotal point of the race at the quarter pole, he couldn't. And so it kind of created this awkward situation where he's like, do I go inside? Do I go outside? It wasn't a smooth trip. And I think Tyler just needs to go. He's a fast horse. He's good on the lead. He just needs to go. That said... and I might regret this decision. I went to Blazing Sevens. I can't. I liked him last year. Maybe he's not one that's going to improve as a 3-year-old. But I will say, some horses, especially closers, do not like Gulfstream. That kickback. Sometimes horses just get pelted in the face by that kickback. And I know it might be a crazy excuse, but I've seen it time and time again. And a lot of the time when you watch the dirt races at Gulfstream, the fields are so strung out. And that's sometimes the reason is because horses just don't take to the track. And one of the reasons is because of that kickback. And I honestly think that is a major excuse for Blazing Sevens. And he wouldn't be in a Grade 1 trying to get Derby points if Chad didn't think that he had a legitimate excuse last time out. He almost, we like to say this, those handicappers, he ran too badly to believe that type of performance. It's too bad to be true. So I'm going back to him, and I think that's kind of like a feast or famine type of scenario where he could win or he could run like he did last time out.
Yeah, Blazing Sevens, 6-1 on the morning line. So at least from that perspective, you'll be rewarded for taking a shot against the favorites because he should be a decent price. What do we do with number 10, Raise Kane in the Bluegrass, who comes out of the Grade 3 Gotham at Aqueduct? He won that race impressively in the mud and now ships down back to Kentucky where he began his career.
I very well could not be giving him the respect that he deserves, but I just thought the Gotham was such a strange race. There was a horse that lost the rider coming out of the starting gate. I know there was, I think Flip Mahoney, he had kind of an awkward trip as well.
He did.
There were there were horses in there that just had bad trips. It was an off track. It was a muddy track that day. And he pops up with this huge performance. He might be able to pull it off again, but I'm of the opinion that he really needs to prove that he is this caliber against horses like Verifying and Tappet Trice.
Yeah. talking with Gabby Gaudet, talking about the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland. Huge card there, 5 graded stakes. The Bluegrass is race 9 of 11. Let's talk about one other horse in here, because this horse to me is a little bit intriguing. You mentioned the lack of speed. He's another horse that is going to come from far back and is going to need some help, have to time it correctly. Florent Giroux is aboard. Sun Thunder for trainer Ken McPeak. And what a double it would be if he could win the Ashland yesterday and find a way to win the Bluegrass and pull off another upset with Sun Thunder. But he's been facing the likes of King's Barnes and Angel of Empire and Arabian Night. He's run into some buzzsaws so far in his career.
He absolutely has. It's just his lack of speed. And I actually really liked him at a track like the Fairgrounds with that really long stretch run, because it does take him a long time to get going. Unfortunately, in the Louisiana Derby, we saw King's Barnes just go gate to wire. Overall, it was, I don't want to use the term speed favoring on Louisiana Derby Day, but it definitely did not hurt to be on the lead or just off of it. And honestly, that's why I think South Lawn, going back to the Oaks, her performance was so impressive, because she did close on a track that favored front runners. And this horse, he just didn't get the right setup. It was a slow pace. King Barnes went gate to wire, whereas in the Risen Star, he definitely got a better setup. It's all going to depend on if there's pace. And unfortunately, that's what complicates horses like this, is that they're reliant on how the race shape unfolds. I do think it's interesting that Brian has been aboard him those last 2 races, Brian Hernandez, and then he hops aboard the 11 Mendelssohn's March. I think this is a little sneaky here for Kenny McPeak. And I know Scott Hazelton, who I work with on Fandle TV and at Keeneland, he really likes Mendelssohn's March, and I think a couple people are looking to him as well. I don't quite like him. I just think he's got a big step up, but it is curious to see Brian, jump off Sun Thunder and go to Mendelssohn's March.
Just got a text from your father-in-law, Mark Cassie, who says he's not mad, he's just disappointed that you didn't give more love to Classic Car Wash in the Bluegrass today.
Well, we didn't get to him yet.
He should have been the first name out of your mouth, right?
I know. And that's always, it is it's difficult because, Mark has so many nice horses in these types of races too. And even when Norm has a horse in the race, sometimes it can be a little complicated. Yeah. But I do. So
I'm kidding about the text message, by the way. I just had to have a little fun.
Okay. Well, this is a true story. The other day I was working and Norm had a horse on the turf. And it's kind of an inside joke between us that, he's not really good. His horses, he points for dirt horses, right? He gets a lot of dirt horses. He doesn't have a lot of turf horses because his focus is on the dirt. And I said that on television. He's like, come on. They're like, I'm just keeping it real, because that's honestly what I try to do at the end of the day. I don't have a lot of information. I don't have any information on Mark's horses. When Norm comes home at the end of the day, we don't talk about horses. We talk about our child who's running around like a maniac and talk about family and other things. So, yeah, it's kind of a misconception that people think I know things, and I really don't.
Yeah. I'm sure Acacia gets the same thing now, being married to Miguel Clement. I'm sure she gets the same thing with the Clement family. But you're right, it doesn't work like that. When trainers get home from work, it's like anybody else coming home from work. You really want to try and focus on something else, especially if you do have a young child at home.
Totally. Yeah. You don't want to talk about work when you've been at work all day, and especially in this lifestyle, it is a grind, and you barely get any relief from it. So, when you come home at the end of the day, sometimes you just want to talk about something else.
Yeah. Gabby Gaudet, fantastic job at Keeneland. Gabby, I wanted to get to the other stakes, but I have to get to a commercial break instead. Really do appreciate the conversation on the Bluegrass and looking back at yesterday's Ashland. All the best to you and to Norm, and good luck at the windows this weekend.
Thank you so much for having me on, Mike. Have a great day.
All right, fantastic job by Gabby Gaudet. She's always so good, and she was with you here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. When I come back, it is time for Bobby Neuman's edition of Calling All 3-Year-Olds, presented by Spendthrift. Then I'll get you ready for hour number 2, which begins with the Hall of Famer, Nick Zito. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolate candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
In honor of all those we've lost to cancer and those still fighting and thriving, like basketball analyst and cancer champion Dick Vitale.
I want to beat cancer. I'm going to beat it. That's no doubt in my mind. I'm going to win this battle.
Defeating cancer will take all of us. Join our team to help fund game-changing research that saves lives. At the V Foundation, V is for victory over cancer. V is for victory over the odds. V is for victory over health disparities, victory over setbacks, victory over the unknown. V is for victory over giving up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Donate to the V Foundation to join our team and help save lives.
Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul.
100% of donations fund game-changing cancer research. Donate now to the V Foundation at v.org.
Hi, this is Kelsey Grammer. When military service members head into battle, none are expected to face the enemy alone, but many return home and become isolated as they struggle with the visible and invisible wounds of war. It can be difficult knowing how to overcome that challenge and rekindle bonds similar to those formed in the military. Wounded Warrior Project supports these injured veterans through their recoveries by connecting them with fellow warriors and their communities. No one should fight this battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hi, this is jockey Brian Hernandez. For me, there's no bigger thrill than crossing the finish line in front, and nobody captures the excitement of our sport like Horse Racing Radio Network. Each week, HRRN brings you exclusive talk shows, podcasts, and in-depth conversations with the biggest names in racing, jockeys, trainers, owners, and more. Plus, HRRN is committed to helping disabled riders through their support of the PDJF. So climb aboard a winner today by visiting horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're all in line. And they're off.
Spendthrift Farm presents Calling All 3-Year-Olds with Bobby Neuman.
There were two big Grade 1s last weekend on the road to the Kentucky Derby. The Florida Derby was held at Gulfstream, and last year's 2-year-old champ Forte was making just his second start of 2023. Despite drawing poorly in Post 11, bettors sent him off the overwhelming 1-5 choice. He had little choice but to drop further back than usual in the early stages and was forced wide around both turns. But his talent and class was too much for the others as he surged past up-and-comer Mage in the late stretch to win going away by a length. The adjusted final time of 1:49.1 wasn't impressive, but the way he did it sure was, and he's the logical favorite for the Kentucky Derby. At Oaklawn Park, the Arkansas Derby brought together an evenly matched field of 10. Rocket Can was last seen finishing second behind Forte in the Fountain of Youth and was sent off the mild 5-2 favorite. But it was Brad Cox's Angel of Empire under Flavian Pratt who came from mid-pack to not only win, but win by over 4 lengths. Long shot King Russell flew home from the back of the pack to get second. Angel of Empire is headed to the Kentucky Derby, while runner-up King Russell's team is hoping his 40 qualifying points is enough to get into the field. As of now, it is. 3 big stakes on the Derby trail today, starting with the Grade 1 Bluegrass at Keeneland. Tampa Bay Derby champ Tappet Trice leads a field that includes graded stakes winners Blazing Sevens and Raise Cane, along with Brad Cox's Verifying. The Grade 2 Wood Memorial goes at Aqueduct today, and the big field of 13 includes Withers champ Hit Show, along with Arctic Arrogance, Slip Mahoney, Shadow Dragon, and others. Out west, the Grade 1 Santa Anita Derby brings together a field of 9. Multiple graded stakes winner Practical Move faces some familiar foes in Go Rocket Ride and Skinner, as well as the Japanese import Mandarin Hero. Next week, we'll preview the final Kentucky Derby qualifier, Keeneland's Grade 3 Lexington Stakes. I'll be back with this week's top 5 list right after this word from Spendthrift.
Spendthrift Farm introduces new for 2023 Classic winner Mo Donegal. A leading 2-year-old of his class, Mo Donegal won the Grade 2 Remsen Stakes to close out his juvenile campaign before going on to win the Grade 2 Wood Memorial and Grade 1 Belmont Stakes as a 3-year-old, joining Nyquist as Classic winners by Uncle Mo.
And it will be Mo Donegal to win the Test of the Champion, the Belmont Stakes.
Mo Donegal became the first horse this century to capture New York's prestigious Remsen at 2 and Wood Memorial at 3. Mo Donegal, the newest Classic winner, standing at Spendthrift.
This week's top 5 list of Derby contenders looks like this. Number 5, Kings Barnes hasn't done anything wrong yet and showed his versatility in the Louisiana Derby. Number 4, Go Rocket Ride ran well in the San Felipe despite his lack of experience. Look for further improvement today in the Santa Anita Derby. Number 3 is Tappet Trice. He overcame a tough trip to win the Tampa Bay Derby, and he's the one to beat in today's Bluegrass. Number 2, Practical Move. The San Felipe winner continues to improve. He's the favorite in the Santa Anita Derby. And number 1 is Forte. The 2-year-old champ showed his grittiness in the Florida Derby. Next stop is Kentucky. That's your Calling All 3-Year-Old segment presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.
And our poll questions today, multiple poll questions. Who's your pick to win the Santa Anita Derby? 46% of you saying it is Practical Move, the favorite. Who's your pick to win the Bluegrass Stakes? Tappet Trice, the favorite, getting 40% of the vote, but some comments coming in for others in that race, including Blazing Sevens, who gets a vote, and another comment from Nola on Twitter, who says that the stretch run just a little too short for Tappet later today. Who's your pick to win the Wood Memorial? Slip Mahoney, taking 43% of the vote in here. It's not even really close. Classic Catch, Croupy, Shadow Dragon, Arctic Arrogance, all getting respect in the comments. Keep those votes coming at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and if you don't do social media, email the show with your comments. Do have a comment here. Trish chimes in and says it would be Tappet Trice in the Wood, Slip Mahoney up in New York, and Practical Move at Santa Anita. So thanks for the email, Trish. Keep getting in touch with the show and keep those votes coming. I'll update them again later in the program. When I come back, Nick Zito kicks off hour number 2. That's all ahead right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification and your Visit Barbados racing update.
.33 Kentucky Derby hopefuls will attempt to punch their ticket to Louisville in today's 3 Derby points races. The Santa Anita Derby has attracted a field of 9 with San Felipe winner Practical Move, the 8-5 morning line favorite for trainer Tim Yaktine. Jockey Ramon Vazquez has been perfect in 2 tries aboard the son of Practical Joke and gets the return call later today. 11 horses are set to brawl in the Bluegrass, with the Todd Pletcher-trained Tappet Trice and Verifying from the barn of Brad Cox expected to vie for favoritism. A win by Pletcher would make him the all-time leading trainer in the history of the historic race, breaking his current tie with Nick Zito, Ben Jones, Woody Stevens, and Leroy Jolly. In New York, a field of 13 will meet the starter in the Wood Memorial, with morning line favorite Hit Show looking to overcome an outside draw while looking to add a 3rd consecutive win to his resume. And that's your Visit Barbados racing update brought to you by Barbados Tourism. Learn more at visitbarbados.org.
If you've been waiting to discover that sweet spot where peace of mind meets the time of your life, then it sounds like you've been waiting on Barbados. You've been waiting to experience a meal that makes you book a flight to have it again. You've been waiting for adventure in the sun, from the majesty of horse racing and polo to the thrill of surfing our playful waves. From the moment you set foot on the island, you'll realize Barbados is exactly what you've been waiting for. Visit jetblue.com/Barbados for special vacation packages.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Hour 2 of 3 rolling on. Mike Penna bearing in the backstretch with you on a massive day in thoroughbred racing, coast to coast and worldwide. Happy to have you with me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. You're listening on 216, 204 on Sirius XM Satellite Radio, affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide at horseracingradio.net. And don't forget, you can access podcasts of this program and all of our shows by going to horseracingradio.net and on every major podcast platform, including Podbean and Apple Podcasts. Getting ready to kick off hour number 2 with the Hall of Famer Nick Zito, and this is going to be a really enjoyable visit. I always love getting a chance to talk to Nick. I'll do that momentarily. 9:20, you're going to hear from Hall of Fame golfer Gary Player. It was 9 years ago that I had the chance to spend 30 minutes with Gary Player in the press box at Keeneland when he was in town for an owner view conference, and the 3-time Masters champion is so passionate about the sport of thoroughbred racing. He's a top breeder in South Africa, and I thought with the Masters taking place this weekend, I'd replay that conversation, and you're going to love it. It comes up at 9:20. 9:40, Ramon Vazquez, who is going to be aboard Practical Move in today's Santa Anita Derby, will be with me live from Santa Anita. 10 o'clock, James Scully brings you his TwinSpires triple play. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, it is I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans, turf writer Tim Wilkin. They will tackle some of the hottest topics in the sport today, including, is it possible that the long drought of Derby winners produced by the Bluegrass and the Wood Memorial could come to an end this year? That is one question I will ask them. Nick Zito hasn't had much of a drought when it comes to winning the Bluegrass and the Wood Memorial. He's had a ton of success. He's won each of those races 3 times, both of his Derby winners using those races as a stepping stone to success on the first Saturday in May. And the man who has trained 2,060 winners in his career is with me now here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Nick, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How you doing, my friend?
Doing great. I'm so excited to take a trip down memory lane with you because I've been talking about it throughout the morning. The last horse to win both the Bluegrass and the Kentucky Derby was a horse that you trained in 1991, Strike the Gold. You also had Go for Gin, who didn't win the Wood Memorial but went on to win the Kentucky Derby, but you've won the Wood Memorial 3 times. Nicky, these races have been so good to you over the years.
Oh, no question. And not for the folks out there, I guess the right word today is to be a jerk, but I think if they didn't go to synthetic, Todd would have had a tough time beating our record. Because we're not so much of, the synthetic. When they put the synthetic in, we were rolling. We had won 3 Bluegrasses, and who knows, maybe we would have won 4 or 5, but we're grateful and to be in that kind of company. And, boy, he's really rolling, Todd Pletcher, this year. I'll tell you, it's going to be I think that everybody's going to have to go through him no matter how you look at it.
I mentioned this. Nick, he hasn't passed you yet. He's still tied with 3 wins in the Bluegrass with you, Leroy Jolly, Woody Stevens, and Ben Jones.
Amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. It's funny. You brought up that thing about Strike the Gold. I don't know why that's happened, I'll be honest with you. The Bluegrass is in tremendous prep to go into the Triple Crown races, especially the Kentucky Derby. There have been so many horses that have placed in the Bluegrass and went on to win the Derby. But the last horse, ironically, is our horse, Strike the Gold, and that's a long time. That's a long way. So, I'm sure records are meant to be broken and, segments and kind of scenarios are meant to, be changed from time to time. But that's quite an amazing feat. But again, if a horse runs second in the Bluegrass today, that's not saying he can't win the Kentucky Derby. It's just a question of why it's been so long, where the last one was our horse, which is it's quite a feat, I guess.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
It's been since...
We'll put it this way, bragging rights, as they say in the bar. If I went to Malone's, I would tell everybody, hey, what was the last horse that did that? They this one. They couldn't even probably remember. But,
yeah, it's been since 2007 in Street Sense that we've even seen a horse come out of the Bluegrass Stakes and win the Kentucky Derby. And you have to go back further to 2003 with Funny Side to find a horse to come from the wood and wear the roses on the first Saturday in May. So I don't know. What do you think the reason is for these long droughts with those 2 races, Nicky?
Well, I'm sure like the statistic guys, analytic guys or whatever could figure out maybe racetrack someday, track variants, post positions. I'll give you an example today. You look, just to jump ship for a second, you look at the wood today. Hitch racehorse of Brad Cox, one of the favorites. Post 13. See what I'm getting at?
Yep.
So maybe there's a lot of horses that have run in the Bluegrass. The post wasn't just right. The track, whatever it was, wet track or this track or who knows which foot goes which way. But I couldn't give you a concrete answer. I just, like I said, they would probably figure out, well, that day the speed was holding up. Well, that day it was nothing but dead track or who knows. There's no way. The one thing I can tell you is someone told me it's called horse racing. And no one really, it's not an exact science. That's why people still hang in the game. That's why people still have the dream, because no one could still figure it out. Yesterday there was a race, I think, in Oakland where it was extremely expensive yearlings. Extremely expensive, $900,000, $200,000, whatever. And a $27,000 horse yearling won. That's what makes the game great. So we don't really have an answer why, the last horse to win the Bluegrass and the Kentucky Derby was Strike the Gold. We don't have an answer for this. We don't have an answer for that. But that's what makes racing so incredibly great, because everybody's got a chance. You still have a chance no matter what it is. And you got to keep fighting. And no matter how you look at it, yes, there's some owners in the game right now. I know a couple of them. You know a couple of them. They're almost trying to corner the market. They've got so many 2-year-olds that they bought at the sale. And, but that doesn't make a guarantee. I think a lot of people in the horse racing business are rooting for Mandy Pope, because how many times has she raised her hand?
Yeah.
Am I right or wrong?
A lot of money, right?
A lot of people, a lot of people are rooting for her horse. And, I like the post. I was actually listening to the show. I love Gabby. Obviously, we all do. And Norm is my buddy. He's always bragging on me. He said when he was growing up, I was his favorite trainer, which was tremendous. And he goes, "Gee, what about your dad?" But anyway, when Gabby said something about post 1, I actually think that's an advantage that could help him, because he will be saving the ground. And yes, Louis is going to have to really try to use him. Get up there, obviously. But I think it will save the ground. That's got to help him anyway. But the Bluegrass, again, if you ask me, whatever I'm supposed to, I think I'm supposed to like somebody in the race or try to handicap. Verify had a tremendous race at Oakland. A lot of people, I don't think they saw that race. Then he ran in the Risen Star, and whatever he did, whatever the race was, I'm sorry. Am I saying it right or no?
The Rebel. The Rebel.
The Rebel. I'm sorry. Right. And he didn't have the best of trips, I believe. But he's probably going to have an advantage. I said Louis got an advantage with the closer saving the ground, but Verify probably is going to get the jump on most of the horses. And then Chad's horse will be coming along with Todd's horse, and we'll see what happens. But anything can happen. That's the beautiful part about racing. Anything. And how about McPeak? He's on a roll, boy.
Yeah, fantastic win for him yesterday, pulling off the upset in the Ashland. And when you say anything can happen, all you have to do is look back to last year's Kentucky Derby and Rich Strike. If you're in it, you can win it. And I mean, that's the beauty of this game.
A great story that is. Geez, that's it. See, that's the greatest story. Somebody asked me, what is that like? I said, well, you go get a scratch off. It's $20. It says $1 million. And you scratch it off. Well, that's the same thing with Rich Strike. That's what happened to him. He got that best scratch off there ever was.
Yep.
The Kentucky Derby, the ultimate prize. $30,000 claim. Again, hang in the game. You got to hang in there, right? That's it.
You just hang in, and eventually good things happen. Talking with the Hall of Famer Nick Zito here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. 3 wins in the Bluegrass, 3 wins in the Wood Memorial, and 2 Kentucky Derby victories to his credit in this remarkable Hall of Fame career. Nicky, if I say the names, Strike the Gold, Hallery Hunter, The Cliff's Edge, those are your 3 Bluegrass winners. What thoughts immediately come to mind when you hear those names?
This is incredible. Strikey, we'll start with Strikey, obviously, and man, I watched the Bluegrass. I watched the great horses win the Bluegrass. So many great horses. You're the history major. Tell the folks how many great horses won the Bluegrass. You know the names.
Tons.
Hall of Fame names. tons. And I always said, gee, I really would like to win the Bluegrass. So anyway, when we went there, I had a horse that ran second to, Fly So Free, the champion. I said, gee, I just need a couple of lengths. And I was walking back to the barn where I remember Stanley Reese, a trainer who's been around for years, and he said, that horse is going to look great when you run him in a one other end. Because he was eligible for one other end. I go, one other end? I'm going to run him in the Bluegrass when he's nuts. So anyway, make a long story short, we ran second to Fly So Free, and the great Chris Antley. And he was a horse that was tough changing leads. Had a wonderful exercise girl, Mary Vanetta, tremendous. And she was great on him. And then Chris was a great horseman, too. So we got him to change leads pretty good. And lo and behold, he went around, field that day and passed Strike So Free, passed Fly So Free. And we were streaking to the Kentucky Derby after that. So that was incredible, obviously. The second one was Coach Rick Pitino's horse.
Yeah.
Valerie Hunt. And again, what could I say? The great Gary Stevens. What a ride. Come up the fence. We won that race. And that was a beautiful moment. And then I think the last one, obviously, was the Cliff's Edge was very, very special. It was very, very special. That was Robert LePente's horse, and he was getting big in the game. And I told everybody, I said, watch this guy. I said, watch the name Robert LePente. He's going to get big in the game. And we had a great run. I actually got a couple of horses for Bobby in. So, but that was an incredible deal because that, I don't know, have you ever seen the Cliff's Edge close up, Mike?
Yeah.
He's the most majestic horse you'll ever see.
Yeah, he's beautiful.
He was by a horse called Gulch. One of my mentors, Leroy Jolly, the great Leroy Jolly, he trained him. And actually, Wayne Lucas trained them, too. So I always liked Gulch. He was by Gulch. And, of course, Mr. Farris. We love Lane Zen. And what can I say? And, of course, we love Coolmore, too. And I guess we love Claiborne. I guess we love everybody, right? I guess we love everybody who's in racing. I guess I'm leaving Gainesway out, or Windstar, or Three Chimneys. I got to keep going. By the time I leave TaylorMade, we won't have enough time. but it's the very important thing I think about the Bluegrass is whatever it is, and the horses go on, and they do pretty well as you could see. A lot of horses that won the Bluegrass or placed in the Bluegrass. It is without question one of the most prestigious races anybody could participate in and win. Because when you think about it, I had a thing one time. Listen to this, Mike. I'm gonna bring it on your show now. Okay?
Go for it.
I have the second Triple Crown. You're gonna say, second Triple Crown. What could that possibly be?
Oh boy.
The Bluegrass, the Kentucky Derby, and the Breeders' Cup Classic. To me, if somebody could put something together with that, I call it the second Triple Crown. So that's racing in general. That's a big thing. And you think about it, obviously the Breeders' Cup, we know what that is. I think you see how much emphasis I put on a race called the Bluegrass. And, of course, the Kentucky Derby, without question, everybody in there, is trying to win the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah. And, Nikki, you've got two. I have to think that there's another one out there someday with your name on it. I'd love to see you pull off the hat trick in the Derby. It would certainly be incredible. And listen, when we're going to do this again, I'll have you back on as we get closer to the Derby or right around that time.
Sure.
Because we didn't even get to go for gin. We didn't get to talking about your Wood Memorial winners and those things. I have to get to a break. But, my goodness, it's so many great memories and so many great stories. And we're going to spend an extended visit at some point here, Nick.
Sounds good. And you tell Todd Fletcher he had to beat me with Super Saver, huh? That would have been my third Derby. That would have been a little different, but Icebox. Anyway, Mike, it's always a pleasure. You do a tremendous job. I'm looking forward to coming back and spending some time with you. But take care, my friend.
Thanks,
Have
Nikki.
a great Bluegrass Day. day.
All the best, my friend. You too. Nick Zito here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Just always so good. And there were his 3 Wood Memorial winners, 36 Red, Adonis, Bellamy Road, and then Gopher Gin, the horse that was second in the 1994 Wood Memorial, went on and won the Derby. Broke my heart that year. Just crushed me. Devastated me. That was the Holy Bull year. And I didn't think there was any way Holy Bull was getting beat. Still say they got to Holy Bull. Something happened. There's no way he runs that bad in that race. But kudos to Nick Zito and Gopher Gin, who took the field wire to wire on a rainy, sloppy day at Churchill Downs in 1994. One quick Nick Zito story, and I'm sure I've told this on the show before, but the thing that I love about Nick Zito, when you listen to him talk, he's captivating, right? He draws you in. He's a lot like Dwayne Lucas and Tom Durkin. We talked about that on the show last week, some of the top speakers in our sport. Nick Zito is one of those guys. When he starts telling stories, you just can't help. But listen, I don't even want to talk. I don't even want to talk when I'm interviewing Nick Zito. I just want Nick to keep talking. But I remember before my wife and I moved to Kentucky in 1997, we came down for a trip to check everything out from Massachusetts, kind of do some get a lay of the land. And we went to Keeneland. It was our first time at Keeneland. It was April 20th, 1997. I remember the exact day. And Nick was there to run Shammy Davis in the Lexington Stakes. And my wife was a huge Nick Zito fan. All she wanted to do was get a picture with Nick Zito. And one of the security personnel at Keeneland told us, hey, he's going to come up here with the horse. He's going to walk through that archway from the barn area, come into the saddling area in the paddock at Keeneland. He said, when he does, I'm going to let you in there. That's your chance to go say hello to Nick Zito. Now, here he is walking in for this Grade 2 stakes with Shammy Davis. He's going to meet the owners. I said, the hell with it. Let's do it. So my wife and I walk up to him just as he comes into the paddock, explained we were there from Massachusetts, first visit, her favorite trainer. She wants to say hello. He couldn't have been nicer. Didn't know us from Abe. He stopped. He put his arm around her, took a picture, talked to us for a couple of minutes, and then he went and met the owners of the horse. Right then, I knew what type of person Nick Zito was. Great individual, fantastic person, and I do hope he gets another big horse one day and gets back to the Kentucky Derby, because it's always better when Nick Zito is in the Kentucky Derby. All right, coming up next, you're going to hear from Hall of Famer Gary Player, the 3-time Masters champion, joined me 9 years ago for a visit. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Stay with me. It's the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Perennial leading consigner Eddie Woods is off to another fast start in 2023.
New Grange takes the San Pasquale, but Hopkins is too strong, finishing up powerfully to win the Palos Verdes, and it's Newgate to score by about a head. Reincarnate to take the sham.
It's Rocket Can to win the Holy Bull.
Additional 2023 stakes winners include Occult, Lane Way, and Sharar, who took the NYRA Derby in Dubai. Find your next winner at the Eddie Woods consignment at OBS March. Visit eddywoods.com.
This Healthy Horse Tip is brought to you by Kessmark. Spring in Kentucky is beautiful, but allergies can prove to be a real challenge for horses. Pollens and air pathogens can irritate a horse's airway, especially those coming from climates where spring begins much earlier, such as Florida, Louisiana, and Arkansas. Horses coming from the high desert of the West Coast can also have difficulty handling Kentucky's prime allergy season. Mucus, while considered normal by some, is not normal and serves as an incubator for fungus, bacteria, and other pathogens that will make a home in the airway if given the opportunity. Keeping the immune system in order and providing your horse with a clean airway through preventive measures such as feeding on the ground, wetting hay, clean shavings, and nebulizing products can all aid in reducing allergies and keep the immune system healthier to address the important things the body needs, such as athletic recovery. For more healthy horse tips, visit Kessmark.com or follow them on Twitter at Kessmark_equine. That's KESMARC_equine.
Sam Houston Race Park's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023 with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. We're looking forward to March 25th, Texas Champions Day. Make it to Sam Houston Race Park as the best in Texas compete in 7 exciting stakes races. The 9-race card starts at 1 p.m. at Houston's Best Bet. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Scholarships are available. Visit rtip.arizona.edu.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, welcome back to the Equine Forum. Great visit with Hall of Fame trainer Nick Zito in the previous segment. Now we turn to another Hall of Famer in another sport, but somebody who is extremely passionate about the sport of thoroughbred racing. He is a top breeder in his native South Africa, a 3-time Masters champion, and 9 years ago in 2014, he came to Lexington, Kentucky for the Ownerview Conference. He was the keynote speaker that day, the inaugural Ownerview Conference. They were kind enough to set up an interview with me to sit down with Hall of Famer Gary Player and talk about his love of racing, a little bit about his career in golf, but more about his love of racing and his passion for the sport. And here's what he had to say. I think you're really going to enjoy this. Gary Player on this Masters weekend.
Well, thank you, Mike. I have this abnormal passion for the racehorse and the thoroughbred industry. It's given me such joy. It's enabled me to go ahead and win 165 tournaments, but win for 6 decades because I was able to recharge my batteries going to my farm and being with the horse. And we know the old saying that the outside of a horse is good for the inside of a man. But it's a business or a sport or a game, whichever way you want to term it, for young people to be involved in because they're working with nature. And this, I've never seen kids that have started with the horses that got involved with drugs, drinking, smoking weed or alcohol. They've always gone on to do very well because actually you've got nature in your heart, and nature is God.
Yeah, very much so. I mentioned you being a native of South Africa. Take me back to the beginning. Where did this love affair of horses begin for Gary Player?
Well, I omitted to mention that today in my speech, but when my mother died as a young boy and came home to a dark house in the weekends and things, it was tough. There was a friend at school who invited me to his farm, and I used to go to his farm, and we used to ride horses. And the smell of the sweat and cleaning those horses and being involved, I got the bug. And this is what we got to do. We've got to get farms to invite 2 boys or 3 boys from each school in the areas to visit their farms, because that's how people. I was listening to Mr. Durkin today, the great announcer or caller, and he was saying he started when he was a young man. The governor, the ex-governor of Kentucky, was saying that he, since he was 5, got involved with horses. So we can get young people to do that. And you remember that when you're involved with horses, don't mean to say you're going to gamble. If you want to gamble, that's your choice. But it's just a lifestyle that is involved with nature, and we've got a battle. We've got a battle of people who just want to build supermarkets, houses, buildings, everything, and cover up the great soil of our world. We've got to be very careful that we keep a balance. Yes, we've got to have progress, but we've got to be careful we don't smother the ground.
Was your father or any other family members, were they involved in the sport in any way?
In golf or not horses?
Horses.
No, my father, he worked in a gold mine 10,000 feet underground, made £100 a month, but he played a bit of golf. He was on the gold mines in South Africa. It is a massive business because we produce 60% of the world's gold. So he could play golf on a golf course that belonged to the gold mine. So his sport was golf.
What do you remember about the first time that you were able to attend a racetrack?
Oh, it was so exciting for me because being an athlete, and I majored in 4 sports at college, so golf came later. So I've been involved and watch other sports. And then I watch these horses competing. What a thrill to see all these horses and so little difference amongst them, as there's so little difference between being a superstar and a star.
I remember hearing a story about you where you told me that, or you told the story that you talked with your dad, and it was around the time you were 17 years old, and you told him that you were going to turn pro, and it didn't go over very well. How about when you approached him with the idea of being involved with the horse business? Did you ever have any conversations with him, and did that take any extra convincing?
No, not like the golf, because when I told him I wanted to turn pro at 17, he said, "You can't do that." I said, "Well, your other son, my brother, went to war to fight with the Americans and the British at 17. So what are you telling me I can't turn pro for?" Yes, I understand. You told him he couldn't do it, and you're telling me I couldn't do it. And I said, "Dad, I appreciate it, but I'm going to work harder than any athlete that has ever lived." And I said, "I'm going to make the world my education." And I was, well, it was a blessing that I was able to achieve that. So then afterwards I started winning all the big tournaments of the world. I was able to buy a farm and go into the horse industry, and of course he just went along with it because he just loved the atmosphere of a farm.
Your work ethic was second to none. Are you able to take that same work ethic and apply it to the horse business in any way?
Maybe as hard, Mike. My ranch in South Africa, we have a 9-hole golf course and a game reserve with wild animals in it. And I work in the stables. I pick up rocks every day. I'm a great one for building rock walls, as you see in Kentucky. And all over my farm, and we have 3,500 acres, I build these beautiful rock walls, and I have them on my golf course. And I don't ask anybody to do anything, even though I'm nearly 80. I mean, I still do 1,300 crunches 4 times a week. I still push 250 pounds with my legs and all the other exercises and the treadmill. So I'm fit. And so I work with these guys, whether it's mixing cement or carrying poles. And this is why I get great productivity from my staff, because I don't ask anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do. But that's what I enjoy doing, and it's such a joy after having traveled more miles than any human being that ever lived, spending your life 62 years in airports and aeroplanes and traveling around the globe, to be on my farm and to have breakfast in the same place for 2 weeks, or sleep in the same bed for 2 weeks now. I never did that. I only did that 1 month a year when I was a young man.
Talking with legendary golfer and Hall of Famer Gary Player here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Gary, we started by talking about your love of horses rivaling your love of golf, and a lot of people would be very surprised to hear that statement from Gary Player. What is it about the horse that just is in your soul?
I think it's the challenge that, I study genetics almost every day to some degree. If you worked out what I did in a week, it would actually work out equivalent of studying every day. And you end up knowing a hang of a lot about nothing. Nobody knows about the horse industry. They profess they do, but if they want to debate with me, I'm ready to debate, because I've got a contradiction to everything they say. And that's the fascination of this business, that it's the unknown, that it's the challenge. And when you have success, you are so grateful, and gratitude is a very big thing. I tell people every day of my life in America, you should kiss the ground when you wake up in the morning. You don't know how lucky you are to live in this country. Be proud of it and have gratitude.
You were great friends with the late Seve Ballesteros, and you were approached one day by a gentleman when you were with Seve, and he asked you if you would rather win the Kentucky Derby or if you would prefer to win the Masters. And I think you surprised Seve with your answer. Tell me about that.
He says, Gary, you like horses very much. I said, I love horses, Seve. I said, in fact, if you asked me, Seve, would I rather win the Masters or would I rather win the Kentucky Derby Open, I'll take the Kentucky Derby. Oh, you crazy, you can't. What are you talking about? I said, Seve, let me explain quickly. If I win the Kentucky Derby and it's a good horse, he goes to stud and I charge 50 or 100 grand. I take 100 mares. I get $10 million every year for at least 3 years. And if he's any good, it goes up to maybe twice as much, 3 times as much. He says, oh, let me think. Oh, that's a lot of money. I take Kentucky Derby too.
That ties beautifully into another story that you told in your keynote address when you were in Hawaii with Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, and a reporter from CNN came by.
It was one of the networks, and he says, if let's just assume there is reincarnation, whether you believe in it or not. What would you like to come back as? So Arnold says, G5, big bed in it, 2 extra captains with me. Jack Nicklaus has a big boat. Oh, lots of beds and a big dining room because Jack and I have 22 grandchildren each and 6 children. They all eat like the Last Supper, as I said. And I said to this guy, I'd like to come back as a stallion. Well, he was a city slicker. He said, what? A stallion? What are you talking about? I said, well, if you take Stormcat in Kentucky, he covers 120 mares. He gets $500,000 for each mare he covers. He said, what do you mean by covers? I said, he actually has sex with a female mare, and they pay the owner $500,000 to get this baby, because it might become a champion, and who knows what happens. He says, wow. He says, that's unbelievable. Then I said, but the stallion, they have a teaser. He teases the mare. When the mare's ready to accept the stallion, he's pulled out, and in comes the stallion, and he does the job. I said, with my luck, I'll come back as a damn teaser.
Obviously, Gary, your passion for horse racing is contagious. You can hear it in your voice when you talk about the sport. It's evident. Were you able to, or did you even attempt to bring other golfers into the sport in any way?
Yes, I have. In fact, Jack Nicklaus owns 3 horses with me right now, and we've had some nice wins so far, and we'll continue to have some more. We have a horse where Barbara Nicklaus and my wife and a lady called Mrs. Rupert in South Africa, the 3 of them own the horse. We use her stallion, we use my mare, and so far so good, and it's really great. And so I've actually got Trevino into the business, and it wasn't very successful. So I said, listen, Lee, I want to bring you back in the business, and I'll give you a horse free. He says, I don't even want it for free. He says it's expensive just thinking about it.
Your very first win on the PGA Tour came just up the road in Louisville, Kentucky. It was the Kentucky Derby Open in 1958.
Seneca Golf Club. I really want to go back to Seneca Golf Club one day when I'm here and I've got a bit of time and meet the members and just reminisce and just let them to know how much I appreciate it. I did a great score. I mean, I did a score they do today, and I won the princely sum of $2,800. I thought I was rich. Of course, in those days, that's multiplied by probably 30, but nothing like today with $1 million. But money wasn't the criteria. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to win the most tournaments, the most majors. I didn't worry about the money. Although I was poor, it was a passion I had to be the best.
Did you have much time to follow the sport when you were golfing?
Oh, all the time. Secretariat was my great hero in sports. Every time I finished my round, honestly, on a Saturday, I rushed to the clubhouse or rushed to the hotel to watch Secretariat run. And I mean, what a horse. Then I made a point of coming to Claiborne Farm. And I knew Mr. Bull Hancock very, very well. We played golf together, dynamic man. And I came back to see Secretariat. The first thing I did, I gave him a big kiss right on his lips. And he gave me so much pleasure. But interestingly enough, he was the best horse I ever saw in my life.
I'm sure there were people over the years that had an influence on your golfing career, especially in the early days. How about on the racing side of things? Were there people that had an influence or had helped you along the way?
Well, I met up with a man, Darrell Brown here, who we bred this great horse, Broadway Flyer. It ran in the St. Leger, second, oldest classic in the world, won group races in England, ran in the English Derby, got sick, unfortunately, came over here and won a Group 1 in Saratoga. And then, Bull Hancock was always an influence in my life as a young man. And then Bill Young, who owned Stormcat, was the great American gentleman, and his assistant, Rick Waldman. And then, Mr. Farish invited me to his farm to have dinner and see all the stallions. The people in Kentucky were just absolutely so kind to me. So, and then I'd visit farms in England and Australia, and I'd see all the big races, the Arc de Triomphe, the Melbourne Cup. I still think the most enjoyable racing day I've had was at Ascot, Royal Ascot, where the Queen comes up this green track and a whole entourage, and the music, and everybody's got a top hat on. You go back into history. and the Kentucky Derby, and then our big races in South Africa. Well, you'll get 100,000 people. I mean, you know, the whole world has got all these great races. So it's just the most wonderful sport.
Mr. Player, you're all class, and I can't thank you enough for spending a little time. It has been an absolute privilege. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed our visit, and all the best moving forward. You're a great ambassador, and continued success.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, what a visit. You can hear that entire conversation. That's just a part of it. You can hear my entire conversation with Gary Player on our website. It'll be posted after we finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern. You can go to horseracingradio.net to listen to the full thing. So much great stuff from Gary Player and much more that I didn't get to use here this morning, but I think you'll really enjoy that conversation. Head back over there, and you can also access that on all of the major podcast platforms, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify. It'll be there for you, too, on Horse Racing Radio Network. When I come back, Jockey Ramon Vazquez joins me live from Santa Anita as he gets ready to ride the favorite in today's Santa Anita Derby, Practical Move. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Attention horsemen, make plans now to race at Woodbine in 2023. The thoroughbred meet begins in April, and Woodbine will distribute more than $64 million in purses. Plus, you'll enjoy world-class racing and training facilities with top turf racing in North America over the prestigious E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Woodbine's convenient proximity to Kentucky and New York, along with a 9-month racing season, make it the perfect place to compete this year. Shipping incentives may be available, so don't delay. Contact Director of Racing Tim Lawson today and visit woodbine.com for more information.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's that time of year again. The Keeneland Spring Meet is back. Make sure to pre-purchase tickets to join your friends and family for world-class racing at Keeneland. Gates open at 11. First post at 1 o'clock. Visit Keeneland.com for a full schedule of races and events. And be sure to download the Keeneland Race Day app before you go. See you there.
Racing at Gulfstream.
There's plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the Royal Palm Meet, with live racing Thursday through Sunday and simulcast every day. It's spring season in South Florida and time to witness exceptional racing. Watch the action from Carousel Club or feast in 10 Palms with an elevated view of the track. For stake schedules, reservations, and tickets, visit GulfstreamPark.com. That's GulfstreamPark.com.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
Ultimate Gamble, Pelagio now second. Ultimate Gamble, a length and a half, and it's Ultimate Gamble. He's been showing his class the whole journey. Ultimate Gamble with plenty left.
Ultimate Gamble, the son of Darley Stallion Medaglia d'Oro, cruised to that easy maiden win at Santa Anita, earning an 89 buyer in his 3-year-old debut and being named a TDN Rising Star. Ultimate Gamble is your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Medaglia d'Oro proved once again he's a sure thing. In addition to TDN Rising Star Ultimate Gamble, Medaglia d'Oro's grandson, Forte, a son of his Grade 1 winning son, Violence, stamped himself as the favorite for this year's Kentucky Derby with his win in the Grade 1 Florida Derby. Learn more about Medaglia d'Oro and all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're coming to the quarter pole. It's Hijazi in front. Fort Bragg, Practical Move, looking for a spot, finding it along the inside. Skinner coming with a wide bid. They're at the top of the stretch. Hijazi, Practical Move, cuts the corner now to challenge him in second. 3 back to Fort Bragg and Skinner. Down at the rail, Go Rocket Ride is running on valiantly, but it's Practical Move coming past the 16th pole in command. And Practical Move, another big effort from him under Ramon Vazquez, wins the San Felipe. Go Rocket Ride second. Skinner a closing third. Then Hijazi and Fort Bragg. The running time 1:42.01 seconds.
That's Frank Miramati with a call of the Grade 2 San Felipe at Santa Anita on March 4th. A huge effort from Practical Move in his 3-year-old debut. That put him on the map and on the radar for a lot of people as potentially a horse to beat when they get to Louisville on the first Saturday in May. But he'll have to take the next step later today in the Santa Anita Derby. He is 8-5 on the morning line, favored to make that a winning trip under Jockey Ramon Vazquez, who is undefeated, 2 for 2 aboard Practical Move. And the native of Puerto Rico has had so much success in his career. 3,542 wins coming into today. He has won countless graded stakes, but this one would be a big one this afternoon. And he is with me now live from Clocker's Corner at Santa Anita. Ramon, good morning.
Good morning, my man. How are you?
Doing very well, and I really appreciate you taking the time on a very busy morning for you. We just heard the call of the San Felipe, so let's start there. Take me through that race.
Yeah.
Tell me about your trip.
Well, I just want to, put my horse in good spot and whatever he's comfortable.
Yeah, and he sat a perfect trip, right? Just off the pace, and then when you said go, he responded. Could we say that he's a push-button horse, Ramon?
Yeah, he's a good horse. He's a very, very good horse. He's doing whatever the jockey, whatever the jockey likes.
Why do you think that you've had this great relationship with him? It's been, I mentioned, you're 2 for 2 aboard Practical Move. Why do you think you're such a good fit with him and he's a good fit with you?
I think we understand each other because I got a very, very good hand and very light hand, and that's what that horse like it. He not like you fight too much with him. He like feeling like he comfortable and really honestly. From the first moment I ride a horse, I can feel a very big connection.
How did you end up getting the mount aboard Practical Move?
Really honestly, I don't. My angel work hard for that horse.
Yeah, that's the thing. This time of year, every rider is looking for that big horse that can get them to Louisville on the first Saturday in May. Do you think that far ahead, or are you just focused on what's going to happen this afternoon?
Yeah, I just focus exactly what's going to happen today, and then and then just thinking later in the Kentucky Derby. Right now I'm on focus for today.
Ramon, you're tireless in your preparation. I know that you must be, because otherwise you don't win 3,542 races in your career, and you've been on a lot of good horses. So take me through what your preparation is like getting ready for today's Santa Anita Derby.
I always, I'm really studying my race, and I'm studying all the competition too, to see what gonna happen in the race. Always I got plan A, plan B, and plan C if I need something different in the race.
Yeah, John Velasquez told me that years ago, that his plan A, his plan B, his plan C, and he said if he has to get to a plan D, he's in trouble.
Exactly, yeah, and if you have to use the plan D, yeah, exactly. You're in trouble.
So who are obviously you have to worry about every horse in there, and you have to beat every horse in the race, but size up the competition for me. National Treasure, Go Rocket Ride, those are good horses too. When you come out of the gate, what's going through your mind, and what other horses are you really going to have an eye on through the running of the race?
Really only, no, I don't think about it. I just thinking about ride my race and doing my best for my horse. So I'm gonna focus on my horse. I know pay attention to the other horses. Really honestly.
You're 2 for 2 now. This will be the third consecutive race that you've ridden Practical Move. Does trainer Tim Yakteen need to give you any special instruction anymore, or is it a matter of you knowing the horse so well that he just gives you a leg up and says, go get him, Ramon?
Exactly. That's what I always told me. He never give me any intrusion.
Well, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, man, because it's working, and hopefully it works again with Practical Move in the Santa Anita Derby. You're also aboard and Tell Me No Lies in the Santa Anita Oaks, so tell me a little bit more about her.
Yeah, she improved. Like she is a nice filly too. Really like that filly too. You know, like from the beginning, I get up that feeling. I told the trainer that feeling is a really good feeling. So, really, only I mean, you know, it's a very, very nice feeling.
Yeah, she's very good. Last time out, she was second in the Santa Isabel at Santa Anita. That was back on March 5th. Of course, you've been aboard her every single time she started, all 6 career races. I'll never ask you to compare her to the colt, but when you're aboard her, like in the Santa Isabel, what were you feeling underneath you that day?
That feeling really only she run really good that race because she get tired a little bit and she coming from layoff. That because you can feeling like she get tired.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if she has a little more stamina today. But Ramon Vazquez is with me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, and he's the man who will be aboard, not just And Tell Me No Lies, but also Practical Move and the Santa Anita Derby. Ramon, you think back on this career that you've had, and I mentioned those 3,500-plus wins and some of the big horses that you've had the chance to ride. What do you think has allowed you to have so much success? Oh, do we still have Ramon? Are you there?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, I was asking about, all the success that you've had in your career. Why do you think you've been able to have so much success?
I just get up every day, every morning, and working hard, and never give it up.
Mike Smith always talks about his fitness regimen, and he works his tail off every single day to stay in shape. How about you? Are you a big exercise guy?
Yeah, I go to the gym every day and try to, stay fit.
Well, and you've done it. You've done it very well for so long. And, Ramon, I really do appreciate your time here this morning. All the best coming up this afternoon, and hopefully we get a chance to see you over in Louisville in 28 days.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the interview, man.
Thanks, Ramon. Ramon Vazquez here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. And my thanks to his agent as well for setting all of that up. Billy Castle really worked really hard to get that done for us here today. Typically, Ramon does not do interviews on game day. He likes to give his riders a bit of time in the mornings to kind of relax and ease into the day when they're going to be riding in these big races. But he was kind enough to make that happen. And you heard him talk about Practical Move. And the one thing that I took away from that when he was talking about the light hands, Ramon said, I have very light hands, which is what this horse needs, what he likes. And, when you think about Practical Move and his past performances before Ramon Vazquez got on board, he was winless. Right? And then Ramon Vazquez hops on board, and now he's a perfect 2 for 2. And the light hands and a horse that doesn't want to be fought by the rider is certainly something that works to his advantage. And when I say winless, I mean he didn't cross the finish line first in any of his races. Yes, he had a win to his credit. That was in a maiden race when he finished second, but was put up via disqualification. That was before Ramon got on him. So Ramon wins the Los Al Futurity with Practical Move, then comes back and wins the San Felipe Stakes. And the horse looks like a different horse. So maybe that's the key. We talk about riders fitting horses and horses fitting riders and all of those things that we talk about in our sport that people don't always pay attention to. This certainly seems like a textbook case of that. And Ramon just told you why. So good luck to him. And again, my thanks to to his agent for setting all that up for us here this morning. When I come back, time to take a look at a couple historical dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend, and I'll get you ready for hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Racing fans, Run Happy Santa Anita Derby Day is here. That's right, the Grade 1 $750,000 Run Happy Santa Anita Derby on Saturday will highlight a spectacular 12-race card that'll also include 5 other stakes. Come early Saturday, first post time is at 12 noon. Admission gates open at 10 a.m. Don't miss out on the race that has produced 20 winners of the Kentucky Derby. Make your dining and seating reservations right now at santaanita.com or by phone at 626-574-RACE. Fans, with a mandatory payout in place, Saturday's 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 jackpot pool should hit the $3 million mark. Bring the family this weekend for Santa Anita's annual Infield Spring Carnival, which features pony rides, a Ferris wheel, inflatable jumpers, and much more. Again, join us early Derby Day with first post time at 12 noon and take a shot at a $3 million pool in the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Santa Anita, it's the great race play.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, getting ready to segue into hour number 2. That's just a few minutes away, and I'll tell you what's coming up. Segue into hour number 3, I should say, at the end of hour number 2 here for you on the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires this morning. I'll tell you what's coming up in that third hour momentarily, but what a couple of hours it's been. If you missed any portion of the show, head on back to our website, horseracingradio.net, and listen to the podcast at your leisure. Some great insight from the Big A, Anthony Stabile, Gabby Gaudet, talking about the races today in New York and in California. And you just heard from Ramon Vazquez talking about the favorite in today's Santa Anita Derby, Practical Move. Update you on the poll questions here. So many of you chiming in on our social media pages and sending in via email. Who is your pick to win the Wood Memorial? 44% of you saying it's Slip Mahoney. Who is your pick to win the Bluegrass Stakes? Tappet Trice, the morning line favorite, getting 40% of the vote, over Verifying at 28%. And who is your pick to win the Santa Anita Derby in California? 43% of you on the Practical Move bandwagon. The favorite getting 43% of the vote. You can keep those comments coming to us and email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. That's what Will did. Will says he'll take Slip Mahoney in the Wood, he'll take Sun Thunder in the Bluegrass, and he'll take National Treasure in the Santa Anita Derby. That's Will in Las Vegas. Will, appreciate you listening. Thanks for the email. Keep them coming here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. All right, time to take a look at a couple dates in historical racing as they apply to this weekend. Let's do it now. Yesterday, April 7th, 1973, the 50-year anniversary of Secretariat in just his second start as a 3-year-old, winning the Gotham Stakes at Aqueduct. He did that as the 1-10 favorite. His time of 1:33 2/5 for the mile equaled the track record for that distance. Yeah, he was pretty good. Yesterday, April 7th, 1979, is when jockey Steve Cawthon made his first race in England a winning one with Marquis Universal at Salisbury. Today, April 8th, 1971, the day that the New York City off-track betting opened for business. Yeah, that changed the landscape of racing, didn't it? 2 branches were available to accept wagers, the Grand Central Terminal in Manhattan and an outlet in Queens. Total handle, including telephone betting, was $66,091. Today, also the anniversary, in 1991, April 8th, that rider-turned-trainer Bill Shoemaker was paralyzed after an automobile accident. April 8th, 2001, Seabiscuit, an American Legend by Laura Hillenbrand, took over the top spot in the New York Times bestseller list for nonfiction after just 3 weeks in the nation's bookstores. And those are historical dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend in thoroughbred racing. Yeah, great stuff. I mean, and what a great day today. More history set to be made. You heard Nick Zito earlier in the program sharing his thoughts on who he thinks is going to win the Bluegrass and the Wood, and who better than a guy who's won each of those races 3 times. Lots of great content here for you this morning. It doesn't end. Hour 3 coming up next. It begins with the TwinSpires Triple Play. James Scully going to be with me to share his thoughts on a few races you can keep an eye on later today and bet at TwinSpires.com. At 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history, and at 10:30, I once again welcome trainer Dale Roman's turf rider Tim Wilkin on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. If your local station is leaving us at this time, you can continue listening to the third hour of the show nationwide on Sirius 216 XM 204, in the Louisville, Kentucky market on ESPN 680, or on your computer, phone, or tablet with our live streaming at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is up next, right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
To the final furlong, and Fusaichi Pegasus runs by the front runners, and he's pulling away, and he is pulling away impressively. Red Bullet left behind, Country only third, Aptitude fourth. Fusaichi Pegasus will roll into Kentucky as the favorite in the Derby.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Justify leading past the 8th pole. He's a couple of lengths in front. Boldoro is closing on the inside. It's Justified by 3/4 of a length. Boldoro trying ever so hard, but Justify, another exhilarating exhibition by the supremely gifted athlete. He's on a dizzying ascent to greatness, winning the Santa Anita Derby.
And it's the filly Winning Colours. Gary Stevens going to the whip left-handed, just one crack though. It's Winning Colours turning in an absolutely outstanding performance. We're looking at one exceptional filly who'll be carrying the hopes of California all the way to the Kentucky Derby.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 of the Equine Forum on a very, very busy day in the sport of thoroughbred racing, coast to coast. You heard those calls of the Wood Memorial and the Santa Anita Derby and the Bluegrass Stakes. So many iconic moments that have led to more iconic moments on the first Saturday in May. And that call of Winning Colors, Trevor Denman there in 1988, pretty special. This is the, 35-year anniversary of that victory by Winning Colors over the boys in the Santa Anita Derby, and then we know what happened when she got to Louisville. Pretty special stuff. Welcome back to hour number 3. Mike Penna, Baron in the backstretch, rolling on this Saturday morning. Going to kick off hour 3, as we do every week, with the TwinSpires Triple Play. I will welcome James Scully from Briss and TwinSpires momentarily. Kurt Becker with a Stroll Through Racing History coming your way at 10:20, and at 10:30, I Ask, They answer that ever-popular segment with trainer Dale Romans, turf writer Tim Wilkin. And by the way, congratulations, and I'll do this formally when Dale is with us. Congratulations to Dale once again for getting back to the Kentucky Derby with his Cyclone Mischief, who is going to have to find a way to get past Forte on the first Saturday in May, 28 days from today. Going to have to find a way to turn the tables, but just the fact that this horse is going back to the Kentucky Derby, bringing Dale back there again, giving him a shot to win the race that he covets so much as a native of Louisville, Kentucky, is a really cool storyline. So congrats to Dale and that big effort from Cyclone Mischief last weekend. By the way, that created a little bit of controversy with our showdown between Dale and Tim, and you'll hear Tim's take on it and Dale's take on it coming up in I Ask, They Answer in just a little bit. But without further ado, it is time to begin hour number 3 with a few selections and a few races you can keep an eye on later today. As I say, welcome to James Scully with the TwinSpires Triple Play. James, as always, appreciate the time. It is a massive weekend of racing. You had plenty of great races to choose from, my friend.
That is right, Mike. It's a pleasure to be with you, as always. It's just a fantastic day. We got major Kentucky Derby preps at Keeneland, Aqueduct, Santa Anita, plus a plethora of stakes at all 3 venues. These are big racing days, and once we get past today, it's a little bit of the calm before the storm leading up to that Kentucky Churchill Downs opening and that big weekend with the Oaks and Derby on May 5th and May 6th.
I spent a lot of time in the first 2 hours of the show talking about those 3 major Derby prep races later today. So I'm very thankful to you that in your 3 selections today for the TwinSpires Triple Play, you didn't pick the Wood, you didn't pick the Bluegrass, and you didn't pick the Santa Anita Derby. There are other great races out there, and you have chosen 3 of those, which are undercard stakes at Keeneland today. The Commonwealth, which is the 5th race on the program, that's a Grade 3. The 6th race is the Grade 2 Appalachian, and the 8th race is the Grade 2 Shakertown. Those are the 3 races that will be part of this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. So, James Scully, kick it off. Race number 5, the Grade 3 Commonwealth, 7 furlongs on the main track. How'd you see this one?
Mike, I see this race a little bit surprising. Have a 10-horse field in a Grade 3 sprint and have very little pace entered in the race. I mean, there really is none of the 10 entrants in here are can be classified as need to lead types. I think people naturally expect Run Classic number 7, maybe Pro 8 number 8 Pro Occident off of a front running performance at Fairgrounds to be a little bit forward. But I'm expecting number 1, Hoist of Gold, to show speed from the rail. And I love the cut back to a 7 furlong distance, which is his best distance. He's run well at Keeneland. He ran well at Keeneland last fall. And I'm going to give him the edge in the Commonwealth Stakes at 8-1 with Brian Hernandez. The thing with Hoist of Gold, Mike, was he really was a horse that they ran him in a lot of stakes races early in his career. They thought he could perhaps be a Derby type. And then even when that didn't work out, he was running in stakes races last spring and summer, and his best effort last summer came in the 7 furlong Maxfield Stakes. He finished a half-length third to Gunite that day at 30-1. He was a little bit in and out of his next couple races, but I loved his return to Keeneland on October 22nd in that Perryville Stakes. It was a really strong effort. Gunite came right back and ran a big race, I thought, in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, and it would be a really tough horse to beat if he was in this spot. And that race was at 7 furlongs. Then he ran into Taba, got beat 5 lengths that day, got beat less than a length for a second by Forbidden Kingdom. And in advance of that 1.6 mile mine shaft at Fairgrounds, he worked a bunch of bullet works. I mean, trained real forwardly, but had a half-mile bullet work that was the fastest of 64 workers right before the mine shaft, and he showed speed. He showed the speed to clear that day. Run Classic was being sent from his outside post, but you can see in the run lines, Hoist of Gold's up 2 at the start. He's up 1 at the first call. Eventually, Run Classic gets to him and wears him down a little bit, but I liked how he held in for 4th. I think that's a good effort to build upon, cutting back to a 1-turn distance that hits him right between the eyes. And I don't think he's going to face a potentially serious pace pressure. So I look for Hoist of Gold to get out there from the rail, and I'm going to give him the edge at a price with Brian Hernandez.
Do you think, James, that Hoist the Gold has to be forwardly placed in that race, or he has to be on the lead from the rail draw in order to be successful? Or do you see a scenario playing out where he could break a step slow and still win this race?
Yeah, I mean, I envision him working out a favorable position from the inside because, like I said, I think that the two horses that have the speed to run with him from the gate are drawn in post 7 and 8. So theoretically, one of them could get out in front of him, but I still think he's going to be up close to him, tracking him, and up close second or third, and then be in position to prove best, turning for home.
Okay, good value, too. You're getting 8-1 on number 1, Hoist the Gold, in race 5 at Keeneland, the Grade 3 Commonwealth, the first leg of the TwinSpires triple play. And by the way, if you go to TwinSpires.com, you can bet all 3 of these races that James is talking about this morning. You won't see a specific TwinSpires triple play wager button or anything like that, but you can bet these 3 races any way you choose. We just encourage you to do it at TwinSpires.com. All right, James, race number 6 is the Grade 2 Appalachian, 1 mile on that beautiful turf course at Keeneland. Tough one to figure out here. Which way are you going to go?
Well, Mike, I am a little bit dubious of Cairo Consort and some of those horses been running down in Florida this winter. I might be wrong about that, but I've got a new face in the mix. There's obviously 2 of them in here. Number 6, Be Your Best, and number 7, Pleasant Passage. And I'm going to give the edge to number 6, Be Your Best. I used this filly last fall at Keeneland on November 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Fillies. And to say she had the worst of it trip-wise would be an understatement. She was basically had a ton of horse down the backstretch into the turn. I hate to criticize jockey rides, but I thought Jose Ortiz had ample opportunity to angle her out on the far turn and entering the stretch. Instead, he held his position and tried to find racing room, and that never happened. She got point blank stopped, checked repeatedly, and basically just sort of spit the bit angling towards the outside that day. And the thing about the way that race wound up was, I don't know if she was going to be Meditate for Charlie Appleby, but she won by about 2.5 lengths. It was 2.5 lengths from second to third. I think that Be Your Best would have been in the top 3, and she'd look a lot better on paper. In fact, I thought that her 2 races last year, when she broke her maiden on firm ground and won the P.J. Johnson on good turf with some give to it, were just spectacular. And I thought that in that missed reload, that was just a bog that day at Aqueduct. The ground was so soft that she just wasn't striding out in the stretch. She won't get that kind of soft yielding ground in the Appalachian this afternoon. And I think Be Your Best, getting Luis Saez was up on Papillon, who just ran second and beat Cairo Consort in the Here Comes the Bride last time. He takes off her to pick up the mount on Be Your Best. So I think that filly's training real forwardly for the pause. McLaughlin and Saez know that she's poised to run a big one, and I'm going to give her the edge. She's 8-1 on the morning line. I'm going to bet her to win in the Appalachian Stakes.
Do you use her in exactas with Pleasant Passage just to her outside?
I do. I really do. And in those fillies, to me, Pleasant Passage got the best of it when she was on that yielding ground last fall. And she really got the best of it. She just basically followed Meditate in the juvenile fillies. I mean, I give her credit for running second, but it was a real belated second. And she just doesn't have the turn of foot that Be Your Best has. So I think Be Your Best is going to get first run on Pleasantly Passage, and I'm going to give her the edge at a better price.
The other horse that's going to get some respect is number 3, Cairo Consort, who you mentioned earlier at the beginning of your analysis of this race, James, and you said that you weren't really high on her, or at least thought that she's vulnerable in here. What gives you pause with Cairo Consort? Because she's going to take a lot of money.
She is, and it was a thing whereby Mike, I just I thought she got great rides from Irad Ortiz in the Ginger Brew to barely get up on a little bit of a dubious field that day, and I just wasn't I just wasn't blown away by the competition in the Swedish Chance. Both Alpha Bell, who ran second, it was a Todd Putcher filly, and Heavenly Sunday was third in there, and I'm just a little bit dubious that those fillies are the best 3-year-old turf fillies in America, and so I'm looking for a little bit of a new face against the likes coming from Gulfstream.
All right, and again, you'll be rewarded with the price. Be Your Best, number 6, 8-1 on the morning line in the Grade 2 Appalachian Race 6 at Keeneland today. All right, one more to go, the final leg of this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. James, you've chosen to talk about the Grade 2 Shakertown, 5.5 furlongs on the turf. All eyes are going to be on the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint winner, Caravel, who makes 2023 debut in this spot. What do you think? Caravel, or can we beat Caravel later today?
I think we can beat Caravel, and I thought the key for Caravel in that turf sprint was being drawn inside. Obviously when Golden Powell missed the break, the other horse that showed speed was Artemis City Limits. I thought he really ran a good second last fall at Kentucky Downs in the Grade 2 turf sprint, came back, was a good third in the Grade 2 Woodford at Keeneland to Golden Powell, and he really ran a solid fifth. I mean, he only gets beat 2.5 lengths. He got the worst of it, like being, I thought, carried wide, whereas Caravel, got to save ground on the turn and into the stretch. But I thought that was a really respectful effort, really a respectable effort. And the thing I like about Artemis City Limits, Mike, is that he's getting Irad Ortiz Jr. up on him. And to me, this is a race that for a 5.5 furlong turf sprint, I expect to see a lot of horses with a lot of ones at the first call in their run lines. And this race did not come out loaded with speed. Obviously, Caravel has speed, but she's to his outside. I think Irad Ortiz Jr. is the most aggressive jockey in America. I think he's going to hustle Artemis from the starting gate. I think he's going to hustle Artemis City Limits and going to get out there and set the pace. And that horse is just going to keep on rolling. The gelding will just keep on rolling. I'm going to tab Artemis City Limits wire to wire with Irad Ortiz in the Grade 2 Shakertown.
I love it. Some great value there from James Scully with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. James, before I let you go, I'll recap very quickly for our listeners. Race number 5 at Keeneland, you're going to go with number 1, Hoist the Gold, at odds of 8-1. Race number 6, you'll go with number 6, Be Your Best, at 8-1. And then in the 8th race, the Shakertown, you'll go with number 3, Artemis City Limits, at 5-1. Every time I see that Artemis, I want to say Artemis because of Ken Ramsey, right? His hometown in Kentucky, where he calls it Artemis instead of Artemis.
Yes, yeah. I had forgotten about that, but I know what you're talking about. Absolutely.
Yeah. Artemis is a pretty good wine, by the way. Stag's Leap wine. It's not too bad. Give it a shot if you've never tried it.
What a great tip. Thank you, Mike.
There you go. James, I appreciate it, man. Again, we'll encourage people to head to TwinSpires.com to play those 3 races any way they like. Real quick, what's happening at TwinSpires with this Keeneland meet opening weekend, and what's happening at Briss with this opening weekend?
Well, at Bristnet, we're going to have all the handicapping reports. We've got a subscription plan if you want to save money on past performances and different handicapping reports. Go to Bristnet.com. And at TwinSpires, we're going to have a Keeneland leaderboard competition over the 3-week meet, $10,000 to the winner, and lots of prizes available in that. Plus, we have some other days of the week promotions for Sundays. We've got a daily double down. Check all that out at TwinSpires.com.
All right, there he is, James Scully, ladies and gentlemen. James, appreciate it. We'll encourage people to call in to the Bristnet.com call-in show here on the network every Thursday. They can join you and Bobby Neuman to talk racing for a full hour from 6 to 7 Eastern. So we'll remind them that they can do that and then go back to our website to listen to the podcast of that show from this past week and every week. Appreciate it, brother. Good luck at the races.
Yes, everybody enjoy the racing. Best of luck wagering on the terrific racing action this Saturday.
All right, James Scully here with that TwinSpires Triple Play. 3 good selections, too. I like that when those guys come on and they select horses that are a bit of value plays, because if you catch one of the 3 in any combination, if you just bet the horse to win, you play it in some combination bets, you catch one of those 3, you're almost guaranteed to make money, depending on how you're playing those races. But great stuff from James. My thanks to him. And, again, catch him every Thursday on the Bristnet.com call-in show right here on HRRN. When I come back, Keeneland announcer Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly Stroll Through Racing History. Another fantastic story on tap for this week. That's all presented by Keeneland. And, of course, Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin in the On Deck Circle coming up at 10:30 Eastern. Stay with me. It's the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Scholarships are available. Visit rtip.arizona.edu.
Racing fans, Run Happy's Santa Anita Derby Day is here. That's right, the Grade 1 $750,000 Run Happy Santa Anita Derby on Saturday will highlight a spectacular 12-race card that'll also include 5 other stakes. Come early Saturday, first post time is at 12 noon. Admission gates open at 10 a.m. Don't miss out on the race that has produced 20 winners of the Kentucky Derby. Make your dining and seating reservations right now at santaanita.com or by phone at 626-574-RACE. Fans with a mandatory payout in place, Saturday's 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 jackpot pool should hit the $3 million mark. Bring the family this weekend for Santa Anita's annual Infield Spring Carnival, which features pony rides, a Ferris wheel, inflatable jumpers, and much more. Again, join us early Derby Day with first post time at 12 noon and take a shot at a $3 million pool in the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Santa Anita, it's the great race play.
Here with Joe Brown Nicholson of Nicholson Insurance Agency. Joe, what would be a common misunderstanding between an insured and the insurance company?
Mike, one issue is a policy condition that requires notification when an insured animal becomes sick or injured.
Do you mean in life-threatening situations?
Not just then, but if a veterinarian is called in for treatment other than routine care, take for example if a yearling colt gets his foreleg caught in a fence and tears the skin. The coat is stitched up and everything seems fine, but later the coat develops a systemic infection. Then there is a serious situation that the company knows nothing about.
So the company needs to know even if it's not a life-threatening situation.
That's right. It's a policy condition. The company has a stake in the health of the animal because of the existing insurance policy. The company might want to have its own vet examine the horse. In most cases, though, just a call or email is all that is needed.
For all your equine and general insurance needs, including farm owners, liability, homeowners, auto, and more, contact Nicholson Insurance Agency at 859-224-7080. You gotta know Joe.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. He won the Grade 1 Bluegrass Stakes 50 years ago this month in an upset, and he was later runner-up to Secretariat in the Arlington Invitational. His name was My Gallant. Bred by Leslie Combs II and foaled on April 4th, 1970 in Lexington, Kentucky, My Gallant was a chestnut colt by Belmont Stakes winner Gallant Man out of predate by former Horse of the Year Nashua. The colt's mother was a half-sister to Royal Bay Jim, who had been stakes placed in both the Preakness and the Belmont, so his was a family built for stamina. At the Keeneland Summer Yearling Sales in 1971, Chicago businessman Arthur Appleton and trainer Lou Goldfine had been on the grounds all day and evening, and they were ready to depart for their hotel. As they rose from their seats in the Keeneland Sales Pavilion, Appleton noticed the colt in the ring, which was the final yearling to be offered at the opening session. Appleton, seeing that the horse was not bringing much money, asked Goldfine for his opinion of the young horse. Goldfine shook his head no, saying that if a son of Gallant Man could not command a better price, then there must be something wrong with him. Appleton replied, "How bad can it be?" Appleton bought the colt, hammer price $11,000, named him My Gallant, and entrusted him to Goldfine's care. The following summer, in 1972, a colt named Shecky Green emerged as the star in Goldfine's barn. And while Shecky Green was rattling off 4 consecutive victories at Arlington Park, My Gallant was going virtually unnoticed. He won twice in 4 starts, but failed to distinguish himself. Sent to Florida for the winter, My Gallant matured into a big, long-striding colt. Standing 16.2 hands, he was beginning to show some promise, but he struggled to focus on business. Noticing that My Gallant would lose interest in the race once he passed other horses, Goldfine decided not on a change of equipment, but on a modification of equipment. He cut slits in My Gallant's blinkers, thereby allowing him to see other horses while keeping limitations on his overall field of vision. My Gallant was 7th at Calder Racecourse in Miami in his season's debut at age 3 before shipping a few miles further south to Hialeah Park for his next 3 starts. He would win one of those races and he would earn a Grade 1 placing in another. In the Grade 1 Flamingo Stakes at Hialeah, before a crowd of 24,000 on March 3, 1973, My Gallant went to the post at odds of 12-1. As the field turned for home in the 9-furlong test, he was trying to find his way through traffic. Despite getting blocked 3 times in the stretch, My Gallant finished runner-up, losing by a diminishing head to post-time favorite Our Native. Jockey Carlos Marquez lodged a claim of foul against the winner, but the stewards found no grounds to change the result. Goldfine told the press afterward that the loss was one of the biggest disappointments of his career. With a clean trip, he believed My Gallant would have won the Flamingo by a minimum of 5 lengths. In his next start, and with Angel Cordero now his jockey, My Gallant ran 3rd to stablemate Shecky Green in the Grade 3 Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream Park. And then it was time to head to Kentucky. Shipping to Lexington for the Grade 1 Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland, My Gallant came to town having lost 6 of 7 starts on the year. He was installed at 10-1 on the morning line. Goldfine was even overlooked at the track's media dinner the night prior to the race and never got invited to the podium to speak. And only one journalist of 41 covering the event picked My Gallant to win. And yet, My Gallant won the Bluegrass on April 26, 1973, in what was called a blood and sweat finish, prevailing by a head at odds of 14-1 after a stretch-long battle with Our Native. Cordero was so excited afterward that he absent-mindedly changed dress shirts twice in the jockey's room while speaking with the press. But the exciting feeling of victory was short-lived. 9 days later, My Gallant would finish 9th behind Secretariat in the Kentucky Derby, and he would be a distant 3rd in the Belmont Stakes as Secretariat won the Triple Crown. He would also face Secretariat in the Arlington Invitational later that summer, finishing 9 lengths behind the champ, but taking runner-up nonetheless. Retired from racing the following year, My Gallant was syndicated for $10,000 per share and went to stud at Wickham House in Ocala, Florida. He would sire 18 stakes winners from 15 crops, including Star Gallant, which won the Fountain of Youth Stakes, and Fashionably Late, winner of the Del Mar Oaks. Before long, there will be celebrations and remembrances of Secretariat's Triple Crown run, and rightly so. But today, we remember My Gallant, who 50 years ago this month wrote his own small chapter of racing history as a Lexington-bred, Keeneland-sold upset winner of Keeneland's signature race, the Bluegrass Stakes. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Del Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's that time of year again. The Keeneland Spring Meet is back. Make sure to pre-purchase tickets to join your friends and family for world-class racing at Keeneland. Gates open at 11. First post at 1 o'clock. Visit Keeneland.com for a full schedule of races and events. And be sure to download the Keeneland Race Day app before you go. See you there.
Sam Houston Race Park's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023 with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. We're looking forward to March 25th, Texas Champions Day. Make it to Sam Houston Race Park as the best in Texas. Compete in 7 exciting stakes races. The 9-race card starts at 1 p.m. at Houston's Best Bet. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
The Run Happies are running, the Run Happies are selling, the Run Happies are winning. Eclipse champion Run Happy is showing a new dimension with winners on turf, dirt, and all weather. A record-breaking sprint champion, Run Happy is also showing winners at all distances, from 7 furlongs to 1.25 miles. A sire whose runners can carry his speed over all distances and all surfaces. Run Happy, price for value, and standing strong at Claiborne Farm.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They race past the quarter-mile pole in the Florida Derby, and Mage got the jump on Forte as he goes to get Fort Bragg. Cyclone Mischief is fighting hard. He's still right there. Less than a quarter of a mile to come, and Cyclone Mischief, he's up for a fight and tries to turn away Mage. Forte better hurry up. Final 16th of a mile. Forte starts to gather in the top horses. Here comes Forte. This is going to be very close, but the champion prevails. Forte wins.
And Angel of Empire has ranged into the lead here. Two Eagles River drops back on the inside. Toward the outside, King Russell is running on. Reincarnate in the second flight with Airtime and Rocket Tan. Angel of Empire and Flavian Pratt. Angel of Empire wins the Arkansas Derby and wins it clear.
Last weekend, Forte and Angel of Empire both stated their cases as major players on the first Saturday in May. We're going to tell you which of those winning efforts was more impressive and which of today's Kentucky Derby points races is most likely to give us the Derby winner. Plus, is Kentucky's newly legalized sports betting right or wrong for racing in the Bluegrass State? We'll dive into those topics and much, much more on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin, all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
All right, guys, before we dive into the first topic, Dale, I just want to welcome you back to the Kentucky Derby, my friend. Congratulations on that big effort last week from Cyclone Mischief. It's going to be great to see you back beneath the Twinspires again in the Kentucky Derby.
Well, thank you. It's always fun to be a part of it, and hopefully 45 points gets us in. I think it should. It historically will. It's been a weird year, though. Everybody's beating everybody. Everybody's gathering points.
Yeah, you're right. Timmy, right or wrong, 45 points gets Dale in the Kentucky Derby.
He's in.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He's in, right? There's no wrong on that one. He's in.
Yeah, I think so, too. It's going to be fun to see. All right, more impressive win last weekend. Was it Forte in the Florida Derby, or was it Angel of Empire in the Arkansas Derby? Dale, what do you think?
Both nice horses. Both ran big races. We agreed last week that a top or bottom, probably the Arkansas Derby was tougher of the two. So that horse ran a beautiful race, Angel of Empire, but the champion got in all kinds of trouble and still prevailed, and he ran a nice race. So I'm going to pull a Timmy here and say coin flip. I know
coin
like
flip.
That. You want to hold it to an answer, but that's too hard.
Hopefully it's not a penny that you're tossing.
No, it's never pennies. You know that.
Well, Dale is right. Both of them were visually impressive, but I think that Forte was more impressive because of what he had to do. I mean, he had to overcome the 11 post, and at the 8th pole, he looked beat. And he just showed that last 100 yards, the turn of foot he had was just super impressive. And, and he basically won going away. I mean, if you can say that in the last few strides. And Angel of Empire, he did beat, I think, a tougher field with Reincarnate, Rocket Can, Red Route 1 was in there. And he won by almost 5 lengths. So, that and he was, Forte was expected to win. He was 1-5. Angel of Empire was 9-2. If you can ask me which one I'm going to pick Forte because he's on my stable of horses in our little competition. So of course I'm going to say Forte.
Dale, considering the fact that you were in that race with Forte and you referenced the champion's troubles he had during that race, plus he had an outside post position, that's never easy going that distance in the Florida Derby at Gulfstream. Just talk about what he overcame in that race and how impressive that really was.
Well, not many horses can do it. You can't get stopped. You can't get hung wide. When you're running against the best in the world and things go wrong, you're usually dead. I was super impressed with him this week. I thought that the rough trip, matter of fact, down the backs around the turn, I didn't think he was going to be the factor. And then all of a sudden he explodes down the lane.
What's the key to you turning the tables on him with Cyclone Mischief in 28 days?
He's got to regress for anybody to turn the tables on him. But with Cyclone, the good positives he has going in the Derby is the further he goes, the different the pace scenario will be. Maybe he can get a little bit of easier time early in the race and have a little more to finish with. And plus, he's getting older and better. I've never run a horse 4 times at Gulfstream Park. He's getting older and better with the more he does. And maybe he could have jumped way forward to 5 weeks off and come on and be a good horse.
1.25 miles is a different game, too.
It is a different game. He's got the foundation going into it, which is going to prove to be important, I think.
Dale, is Cyclone Mischief in Kentucky now?
Yes. He got in yesterday afternoon. Goes to the track tomorrow.
All right, there you have it. Cyclone Mischief, Forte, another rematch coming up 28 days in the Kentucky Derby. Guys, more impressive win last weekend. Let's talk about the girls. Affirmative Ladies upset in the Gulfstream Park Oaks, or Wet Paint's win as the heavy favorite in the Fantasy. Timmy?
Well, I was very interested in watching Wet Paint. It's kind of an aptly named filly because she's done all her best running on wet tracks. All 3 of her previous races were on off tracks, and I was very interested to see what she was going to do in stakes competition on a dry track. And she passed that with flying colors, winning pretty easily at 3-5. And she stamped herself as, if not the top contender right now, going into the Oaks, but being right there. And Graham Motion's filly, Affirmative Lady, she did pull off a little bit of a surprise in the Gulfstream Oaks and beat a couple of Todd Pletcher's fillies who were both 2-1. And, she did it the right way too, winning by a couple lengths. But for me, I'm going to say Wet Paint really stamped herself as a bona fide Kentucky Oaks contender with that race last week.
I must agree. Wet paint all the way. I mean, Graham Filly ran a beautiful race, but she'll have to do it again before I jump on that bandwagon. But she did run a nice race. Graham's a great trainer and a good friend. And it's good to see him back in the Derby weekend.
Yeah, Wet
but
Paint.
I'll agree with Tim on this one.
Yeah, Wet Paint looks like she could be a handful when she gets to the Kentucky Oaks on the first Friday in May. 27 days away from that one, by the way. All right, topic number 2. Today's trio of Derby points races are the Bluegrass Stakes, which features 3 horses currently in the top 20 of the Derby point standings. You have the Santa Anita Derby, which has 1 horse in the top 20, and the Wood Memorial, in which none of the 13 entrants find themselves among the current top 20. So, guys, I'm going to ask you, which of those 3 races is the deepest of today's trio of Derby preps, and which is most likely to give us the winner of the Kentucky Derby? Timmy, you want it first?
Sure. Well, Forte's not at any of these 3 races, so I don't know if the Kentucky Derby winner is going to come out of one of these 3 races. But the Santa Anita Derby, I think, is very contentious, and I think the Bluegrass is very contentious. Starting with Santa Anita, you got Practical Move from Tim Yaktine. It's actually a Tim Yaktine horse. It's not one of the Baffert horses, who's been sort of like, second to Forte in a lot of the polls of Derby runners after he won the San Felipe. And you got the top 2 other finishers from the San Felipe, and Skinner and Joe Rocket Ride. I probably butchered that name. And that's from Richard Mandel, and you could never not consider one of his horses, and he was the favorite in the San Felipe, but got beat. National Treasure is back in this race. He missed the San Felipe with a foot problem. And maybe the most interesting horse is the horse from Japan, that Mandarin Hero. It's the first ever horse from Japan to run in the Santa Anita Derby. And, the Japanese have made their mark just about everywhere they've gone. So I would take a close look at him. And, in the Bluegrass, Tappa Trice, the Tampa Bay Derby winner, Verifying. Even though I can't root for Verifying because he's on Dale's team, I can't root for him. But he's going to be a factor in that. Blazing Sevens, who didn't run a lick in Fountain of Youth, even though he had a tough start, he could rebound. And you got Ray's Kane from won the Gotham by open lengths on an off track. I don't think the winner of the Derby will come out of the wood. But if I was going to say a potential Derby horse coming out at one of these races, I'm going to say Santa Anita.
Yeah, Santa Anita's a great race. I'm going to go Bluegrass. I think that just got, like you said, 3 of the top 20 earners in it. We need horses above Cyclone Mischief to win some of these races and get the points. So I'm definitely going with Bluegrass here as being the right one. Wood's on the back burner for a while till it starts producing.
It's amazing to think that the Wood Memorial and the Bluegrass Stakes have gone through such a dry spell in producing a Kentucky Derby winner, because those are 2 of the greatest Derby preps in the history of the Kentucky Derby. I pointed out earlier in the show, guys, that between these 3 races, the Wood, the Bluegrass, and the Santa Anita Derby, they've accounted for 42% of all Kentucky Derby winners in the history of the Kentucky Derby. That's incredible.
That's good statistics.
And, if you look at just the 3-year-old prep races who have produced the most Derby winners, after the Florida Derby, which is tops with 24, then it's the Bluegrass was 23, and then the Wood, believe it or not, is 3rd with 20.
Yeah. 19 for the Santa Anita Derby.
Santa Anita 19, then there's the rounding out the top 5. I think it's Fountain of Youth. So, it's mind-boggling a little bit to me that the Wood is not done as well.
Dale, it's interesting. You talk about horses with more points than Cyclone Mischief, or horses in that top 20. You want them to keep earning points, and you don't want some horse coming from way out of the clouds that has 0 points now to pull off an upset in one of these races and knock you further down the list. It's a lot like the NCAA basketball tournament, right? When you're thinking you might be kind of a bubble team to get in, you don't want those upset teams winning the conference tournaments. You want all the favorites to win so that you can maintain your position to get into the field.
Exactly. It is. It becomes a waiting game, and it's part of the fun too. You sit here on the bubble. I've been on the bubble many times, and we usually get in. But yeah, you sit here and watch everybody around you. There's 3 races with points. There's 9 horses going to pick up major points. So are they going to bump ahead of me? Or are they going to be the ones that already have points ahead of me that are going to just stay where they are? A lot of moving parts this weekend for us.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about those droughts with the Santa Anita Derby with the Wood Memorial and the Bluegrass Stakes. We'll do that coming up in Right or Wrong, which is just a couple segments away. But I want to get to one more topic first before we do that. Last week, guys, I asked you if you were buying or selling some of the top Derby prospects, and one of those was Sunland Park Derby winner Wild on Ice, and neither of you were willing to hop on his bandwagon, which is understandable. The horse he beat in the Sunland Derby, Low Expectations, is coming back in the Santa Anita Derby today. He's 30-1 on the morning line. Let me ask you this. If he were to pull off the upset in the Santa Anita Derby, would you then be more likely to upgrade the Derby chances of Wild on Ice or to downgrade the chances of Santa Anita Derby favorite Practical Move? Dale, which way are you going on that?
If he upsets the Santa Anita Derby, we're wiping out everybody west of the Mississippi. So I don't think if he wins, the rest of them have a problem.
Cross him off the list.
Cross him off.
Well, it's he's aptly named for sure. I mean, Low Expectations. No one's going to expect anything out of him. I get why they're running. They want to try to get a spot in the Derby. I mean, there's points available in the Santa Anita Derby. He's sitting at, I think he's at 25 right now with 20 points. If he can clunk up and get some more points, he could get himself in the Derby. But I don't think there's any way in hell he's going to win this race. This is a poor guy. It took him 5 starts to break his maiden, and here he is after that. And when he in the Sunland, when he was second behind Wild on Ice, it was 35-1. I mean, Low Expectation was 21-1 in that race. I mean, no one expected that, and hats off to you if you had that exacta. But I think that if Low Expectations were to win the Santa Anita Derby, I might just have to quit the game and go into law or something. Because,
let's hope that doesn't happen, Timmy, because we like having you here on the program, and you can't go anywhere regardless of what happens with Low Expectations. So you kind of agree with Dale that if this horse wins, it speaks to the level of competition of all of the other horses west of the Mississippi. Yeah, I mean, and I don't think it will happen. I mean, I think I'd be shocked if it would be Rich Strike-ish if he were to win the Santa Anita Derby. It's just I just can't see it happening. And if he gets some points and gets into the starting gate in Kentucky, God bless him. But I can't imagine they're going into this race thinking they're going to win. All right, well, we're going to find out later today, and we'll see how that all plays out. Time now for a couple rounds of Right or Wrong as we say hello to our good friend, Nick Zito.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think?
Yeah, what do you think? Right or wrong? Number one, it has been 23 years since Fusaichi Pegasus pulled off the Wood Memorial Kentucky Derby double, the last horse to win both of those races. You have to go back to 1991 to find a horse who swept the Bluegrass and the Kentucky Derby. Guys, if I were to say that one of those droughts will come to an end in 28 days, would I be right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale?
Maybe next year. You're wrong right now. This year looks bad for the Wood Memorial horses. Maybe next season.
And the Bluegrass?
And the Bluegrass. I think we're a little late.
Well, I'm gonna go a half right, half wrong. I don't think there's anyone that comes out of the Wood that's gonna win the Kentucky Derby. I mean, being a New York guy, it pains me to say it, but the Wood Memorial just hasn't produced bona fide Derby runners of late, and I just don't see it happening again today. Hitch shows the favorite for Brad Cox. He's got to overcome the 13. And this isn't, Brad has a couple in here. He also has Slip Mahoney. And these horses are not Brad's 18. So I don't see, I just don't see anyone coming out of the wood. One horse that I'm kind of interested a little bit is Shadow Dragon, who you might remember him, the New York bred in the Fountain of Youth. The Holy Bull was second and third, 34-1 to his stablemate Rocket Can. So I don't think anyone there. I would be there's a little more of a light of optimism for the Bluegrass, because I think Tapit Trice is a horse that's going to get better and better. And again, Blazing Sevens, I'm going to give him another chance. Verifying, he's had high expectations on him. If one of these horses wins the Bluegrass, does he automatically jump into the top of the class of the division? Of course not, because Forte's right there. But a horse that comes out of this Bluegrass, if it's one of those three, I'm going to give him a puncher's chance, because you never know what's going to happen in the Kentucky Derby. There's so many things that can happen in a 20-horse field. So I think there's a glimmer of hope that a horse comes out, one of those horses comes out of the Bluegrass could turn the tables in Kentucky, although I'm still on the Forte bandwagon.
Dale's also hoping that the winner of the Kentucky Derby comes from the Florida Derby, not necessarily Forte, though.
Exactly.
Last week, the Kentucky legislature passed House Bill 551, which now makes Kentucky the 37th state to legalize sports betting. Will this prove to be right or wrong for racing in the Bluegrass state?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
Dale?
I haven't read the full bill, but I was told the other day it doesn't help racing at all. We get none of the money out of the handle of sports betting, and I just don't see it being I know there's a lot of money bet on it, but you can lose being a bookie. You can't lose being a pari-mutuel house. I don't see that it's that big a deal anywhere. And after the genie's out of the bottle and everybody has it, who really cares?
Well, because from what I understand is that tracks are able they can operate as sports betting facilities. I guess that would bring more people into the track, right? Does that help? But it probably does it help the handle for horse racing if more people come in and they want to bet in the sports books? Maybe they bet some horse racing too. I don't know. I guess that remains to be seen too. But I think I'd wait and see too to see how it plays out. It's just also competition for the dollar, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing for racing necessarily, though, because I think it gets people out playing sports, whether it's at a racetrack or a facility that features racing and sports together. And maybe you get people that are betting on sports that aren't planning on betting racing, and they place a few bucks on a horse race, and who knows where that leads. So I don't think it can be bad necessarily. Dale, I do hope that racing ends up getting some type of kickback from that money. I don't know if they will, but that remains to be seen on how all this plays out. But we'll see. That's right or wrong, and it is brought to you every single week right here on I Ask, They Answer. And again, our thanks to our good friend Nick Zito for lending his sound bites there throughout that segment. Guys, quick update on the showdown, the battle between Dale and Tim before we get to our West Point of the week and wrap up the show. Dale is in the lead with 24 points. Timmy closed the gap last week thanks to Forte's victory. He got it to 20, so it went from, a 9 deficit gap, Tim, to now 4, and you're going to be represented. We're recording this particular segment on Friday, by the way, so there's a good chance that when we're recording this, you might have taken the lead over Dale because you're represented by Wonder Wheel in the Ashland on Friday at Keeneland, and Dale has Verifying in the Bluegrass, so he'll get a chance to regain the lead if indeed Wonder Wheel puts you in front.
Well, you know what? I think there's a conspiracy going on here because I saw the updated standings that you posted, and you guys had Dale with 26 points. So either someone's math is wrong or Dale is starting to slip money to the judges.
Hey, I never trust anybody who won't take a bribe.
So I'm going to have to hire my own independent stewards to come in here and monitor this situation.
Yeah. by the way, it is correct on our website, Timmy, 24-20, and I will accept total blame for making that mathematical error. I had it at 26, but it is 24-20. It is corrected. We are straight going forward. Tim, I did tell you this was the week. Dale agrees. You get to pick one more horse to replace Arabian Night in your stable because he was hurt. If one of Dale's horses gets hurt, he'll get to do the same thing going forward. So it cannot be a horse running this weekend. I don't want you picking the favorite somewhere. So pick a horse, any horse that's not running this weekend.
I did do a lot of research on this, and I landed on the coach. I'm going to take Secret Oath.
Ooh. All right.
Secret Oath was very impressive in her debut this year.
Nice call.
Good.
All right, Secret Oath for Tim, replacing Arabian Night in his stable. Again, Dale leads 24-20, but there's a chance that, Timmy, again, you may be in front as people are listening to this on Saturday morning because of Wonder Wheel, so people can check and see how she does. We'll have the update on our website, horseracingradio.net, and we'll post it at HRRN on Twitter and Horse Racing Radio Network on our Facebook page. Okay, time to wrap up the show with a weekly segment that we bring your way every Saturday morning here. It is the West Point of the Week, presented by West Point Thoroughbreds. Don't forget that you can experience the lifestyle of thoroughbred racehorse ownership with the gold standard in racing partnerships for over 30 years. You know I'm talking about West Point Thoroughbreds, and here's what you do. You text HORSE to 66866, and you can learn everything you always wanted to know about owning a racehorse. That's HORSE to 66866. Message and data rates may apply. All right, guys, time for one parting shot, your West Point of the Week. Timmy, kick it off.
Well, this is just a shout-out to the recently retired Sonny Taylor from the New York Racing Association. Spent 58 years with the organization in different roles. He was the official timer when Secretariat won his Belmont. And he's just like he is an all-around good guy, and I hope we still see him around the races. Congratulations to Sonny on his retirement.
Yeah, that's a good parting shot. Sonny's one of the great guys of the game, and hate to see him go. But my West Point of the day is today, since we're recording on Friday, opening day at Keeneland, the official start of horse racing, in my opinion. It's a great weekend, leads all the way up to the Derby, and this is when horse racing really starts getting fun. We'll have a lot to talk about.
Yep, it's going to be a great 28 days going into the Kentucky Derby. And, guys, all the best this weekend. Dale, good luck. Timmy, good luck at the windows. And we'll do it all over again next week.
Sounds great.
All right. Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, I Ask, They Answer, brought to you every single week by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. I'll be right back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Matthew.
There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becker. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
The Department of Veterans Affairs is so innovative, it not only improves the lives of veterans, it transforms the lives of healthcare professionals who serve them with access to the latest technologies and remarkable benefits. Transform your future at vacareers.va.gov.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
Stop. That dog does not want to be petted.
Just a little heads up before something bad happens.
Move your coffee cup away from your computer.
Oh, no.
So you can have more control.
Stop. You're texting your boss by mistake.
Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes like managing your weight, getting active, stopping smoking, and eating healthier, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. It's easy to learn your risk. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Warning, the cap is loose on that catch-up.
Ugh. Don't wait. You have the power to change the outcome. Visit doihaveprediabetes.org today. That's doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, remember that you can follow the road to the Kentucky Derby, plus have the latest racing, breeding, sales, industry news and analysis, plus entries, results, race replay videos, and so much more at your fingertips with the Blood Horse Daily app on your phone, and it's updated throughout the day, or it's delivered daily in an email, and both of those are free. Just go to bloodhorse.com/daily to download the app or to sign up now. That's bloodhorse.com/daily. Fun show here this morning. Great weekend. I mean, no shortage of things to talk about, certainly. And I know I deviated some here this morning with these 3 hours and delved into a little more handicapping, but with so many great races. It was wonderful to talk about the big races coming up at Keeneland today and Santa Anita, and getting a look at what's coming up in the Wood Memorial and the big card at Aqueduct. So many great races, so many opportunities for horse players, and I encourage you to go to TwinSpires.com to make your wagers later today, and good luck to everyone playing the races. My thanks to all of my guests for being with me here this morning, including James Scully with that TwinSpires triple play, Dale and Tim in the previous segment, and Kurt Becker with that great stroll through racing history here this morning. If you missed any portion of the show, head back to the website, horseracingradio.net. You can listen to the podcast there. You can also do it on every major podcast platform, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Google or Podbean, whatever it is. Head over there and check out the podcast of this show and all of our shows at your leisure. My thanks to my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studio, and to Chauncey for handling all of our social media again this morning. I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Go Steelers!